horrible, honestly. Burst into flame.
The difference between what's pretend and what's real.
God, burst into flame. Horrible, God, flame.
Welcome to another escape route stream. Welcome to another spooky streams. I'm finally doing it. I told myself I wasn't gonna. I've started a brand new visual novel. Oh my god. Sorry, I got distracted. I just started streaming and immediately Garlips is like, oh, by the way, take a look at these buzz games I got. It's like, I know you're about to stream, sorry, but that's alright. So, yeah, this is going to be the first. I didn't realize the music skips this much on playback in OBS. That's interesting. Right. Yeah, so this is a visual novel called Raging Loop. I've wanted to start this for absolutely ages, but I haven't found a reason to do so. I was going to stream it last year for spooky streams. I did not. Let's correct this. And hey, the YouTube chat is broken again. There's the YouTube chat monkey. And now the chat is fixed. Something I Love got announced during Xbox Gamescom. Oh, they actually did announce a game, and it's a sequel to Lost in Random. I heard good things about Lost in Random. Apart from it doing well. I wasn't aware it did, so if it did well enough for them to make a sequel, that's great. This game is a work of fiction. It is unrelated to any real people, groups, incidents, etc. This game contains violent, grotesque depictions and descriptions of psychological horror. You had me at scenes. Oh. This sounds pretty. This is epic. Let's put on the full lighting for this one. Oh, this is banging. And I'll probably end up having to mute this. I imagine this is on Content ID. Abandoned. Isn't this that first-person shooter that's never coming out? Oh, Mako's cute. Oh, old lady's cute. Some of these characters have frightening designs. Can't wait to get freaked out by them. Hiri no Nagai. Final wishes of the mist. So yeah, visual novel. Let's read a book, everyone. Let's do this. Let's read a book! That's it! Read a book! That's not how you spell carnival. Didn't realize the original was as old as 2015. Right, text speed, fast. Vibration on. Forced to unlock, please use only in unforeseen circumstances such as data deletion. As if you want to unlock everything in the game. Interesting, there's a function for that. Okay. Wow. Welcome you to the world of this visual novel, Raging Loop. I am nobody special, honestly. Simply consider me part of the interface. Okay. Rikaka. You are most likely playing this game for the first time, and I'm here to explain a few things, okay? Explain away. This work is quite strange, you see. It's recommended that the uninitiated take the time to read everything here, okay? Those uploading their gameplay should at least read the 4 videos and sharing section. Oh no, it's one of these. You read until the end, you'll find a sexy CG of me doesn't exist. Truly, we live in a society. Right. About videos and sharing. Talk to me. It's a visual novel, meaning that the story, events, and conclusions are very important. Okay. Because of this, it would be very troubling if someone uploaded everything to the internet. I'd be sad, very sad. Tough shit. Then again, we do understand those who want to enjoy the work with many other people. Yes. And considering this is P-Cube, and P-Cube never give me any keys, we're playing this game through, in its entirety. Because of this, we have set a guideline for how far we would like you to upload. Don't care. This range covers the whole first main route and a little extra. Don't care. Specifically, you can only upload up until the choice at 4 infiltration queue entering the village. That's a lot, just so you know. I'm sure you'll have enough content for your uploads. We're streaming the whole thing. Okay? This game came out in, well, this release in 2019. I paid for it with my money. It is the day 1 edition. P-Cube don't send me any keys. For anything, ever. I requested White Day 2, no keys. If we go on Keymailer right now, I can show you the list of every single P-Cube game. I have requested them all, and I've been turned down for them all. So we are playing through this in full. I actually think it's a bit too much. Uploaders who read everything aloud might get a sore throat. Please don't overdo yourselves, alright? What would happen if P-Cube sees this?
Fucking fight me!
I don't know. I don't know what would happen. Also, if you intend to upload, please use the reminder function. What do you mean? If you have it set to on, when you reach the time to stop making a video, a strange sheep pops onto the screen and says, "End of the line!" We would be grateful if you stop recording when you see him and try theorizing and arguing instead. We're going to turn it on, and then we're going to play past it. Was that mustache hair I saw? Do you want to see again? In Raging Loop, the share function is available throughout the whole game. This is so that you'll be able to make screenshots or record for yourself. Like Rikako said, we would prefer it if you did not upload the entire work. Please don't go beyond the set location. Ah, now you see, this is not a you must not, this is a please. And as polite as this Rikako lady is, she works for P-Cube, and P-Cube don't give me any keys. Otherwise, please feel free to use the function reasonably and responsibly. Record everything. Got it. Raging Loop is a visual novel. Much like with regular novels, the story is told through text and the enjoyment comes from reading it. If you are familiar with the party games Werewolf and Mafia, this visual novel bears a close resemblance to those, but keep it in mind it is just that, a resemblance. We swear we didn't rip these off. Sincerest apologies to those who are hoping to play an internal game of Werewolf with 20 super AI Rikakos. I weep and bleed for you truly, how sad. Wow! 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 Just let it be known, I did not say those words, but whether or not I condone them, I refuse to say. Of course, this is not merely a novel. As you carry on, you will sometimes come across choices which affect the story. It's quite amazing. How novel that a visual novel has choices that affect the novel! The characters have lively visual depictions as well as voices, making it easy to immerse yourself in this world. To enjoy the voices to the fullest extent, or to simply avoid bothering your neighbors with the sound of anguished screams, please consider using headphones. Okay, no headphones. This story is obscenely lengthy as well, so please take care not to be drawn in so thoroughly that you begin losing sleep. Also, you may be aware of this already, but Raging Loop is based entirely around fabricated murders and horrific scenarios. Yes, that's what I'm hoping. It's tailor-made for all you fans of suspense, thrillers, horror, and mystery. Of course, this is a work of fiction, so it has nothing to do with real people, groups, and incidents. They keep saying this, but we're going to find out someday that this was really based on a real crime that happened, and they're just trying to cover it up. The developers of this game will be in prison for a crime that they swear they did not commit. It also includes fictional details about academic matters such as history, religion, mythology, science, and medicine. Relying upon it during exams would get you 0 points. Lastly, we do not endorse replicating the crimes and cruelty depicted in this work. But I do. There's nothing to worry about as long as you differentiate between reality and fiction. I need to take a screenshot of that, because that's perfect. There's so many people on Twitter that need this lesson. I'm sure you are intelligent enough to not conflate things that happen in the game world with things that happen in real life, so enjoy Raging Loop to your heart's content. Special functions.
レイジングループのストーリーは複雑に分岐しております。でも心配無用。
A scenario chart. Hey, Tack! Welcome! Welcome, welcome! You can access it anytime by simply opening the menu, giving you an overview of the scenario. Using the chart allows you to move to any chapter you've already been to anytime, anywhere. Right, so you can jump back. There's no need to save at every choice you come across. Okay. Playing some Scarlet Maiden. Is that a Tuhu? Keys. All branching in the story happens immediately when you make a choice. None of them start taking effect further down the line. However, some of the choices can be unlocked when you have specific bits of information called keys. So you can jump back to a previous section with a new key and unlock a different path.
ちなみに一度キーを入手して解放されたルートはセーブで逆に言うとキーが未入手の状態にはそれで読めなくなる文章はありませんのでキーがない状態に戻して遊びたいという既得なお方には全データを初期化する手もあります。ご利用は計画的に独特な機能に加えテキストウィンドウを隠す バックログ、ロード、セーブ。
How do I hide the text window? Oh, there's no, like, button shortcut for it. Normally that'd be, like, select or something on the D-pad. It's a woohoo game. Oh, I see. One of them Sims games. Okay, saving and loading. Save manually. Volume, text display speed. I've got text display on instant. I played a horror novel once, both the 1 and series version, for 2000 G achievements in 10 minutes total. Could you DM me the name of that game, please? I feel like raising my gamer score. What's that? There's a sheep. Oh my god! I can't play past here, guys. Thank you kindly for reading this far. Yes, no problem. Hey, Blank! This game is interesting. It's available on just about everything nowadays. Switch, PC Steam, PS4, which is how we're playing it here. On the PS5, but it's PS4. Beyond the pockets of mist and hazes of blood, at the end of the ever-repeating despair and grief. Please come and witness the truth of the werewolf village with your own two eyes. Alright, how are we doing this? Am I going to voice every line of dialogue? Am I just going to voice the main character's line of dialogue? I think I'll just voice the main character. In which case I might turn their volume down to 0. Nah, I'll let all the sound play, because P-Cube never give me keys for anything. I closed in on the side of the road and killed the engine. It was steeper than I'd thought. My bike was on the verge of giving out, so I pushed down and deployed the kickstand. Well, I'm lost. Maybe taking a ride down an unknown road with no sat-nav on me wasn't such a good idea. I just followed the road, so I figured I wouldn't get lost, but now I was in some deep shit. No, cool it. This isn't a big deal. I sighed, took note of the fact that I'd gotten lost in my pocket journal, and then pulled out a map. Suddenly, a rush of memories flitted into my mind. I don't have key number 4 yet. Somehow I kept myself from remembering these things. After all, I'd gone on this trip to forget.
もうやめやめ。目の前の現実を直視。人生はシンプル。つまりこの道のごとく、真っ暗で道案内もなく、進むか返すか。考えることはそれだけ。
Going back wasn't an option in this case, so I just moved forward. Ooh, this is moving too fast. Right, I am going to have to press X to progress. Still, I wanted to know where I was, at least, so I looked down at my map. It was all Greek to me. Last time I'd seen a sign, it was still light out, meaning that I'd gotten lost after the sun had set. I think I remember YouTube hitting horror YouTubers and gameplays once. What, for this? I'm not scared of P-Cube coming down on me for streaming a game that is already viewable in full on YouTube from other content creators. Sure, it was my own fault for just guessing which intersection I'd been passing through, and that it had taken me 2 hours to conclude I was lost. Crazy to think that just 2 hours of aimless driving got me almost completely surrounded by mountains. They extended as far as the eye could see. If you flipped this scenery upside down and shook it, it's unlikely even a shred of civilization would tumble out. I love that line. Besides the asphalt below, my sweet ride, and the lamppost above, the first one in a while, mind you, there was nothing man-made here. The pocket map I had wasn't detailed enough for me to figure out where I was.
進むか。
I'd go as far as I could. Worst comes to worst, I could just camp at the side of the road. 2 hours later, I deeply regretted ever thinking that. Basically, camping wasn't an option. The mountain road had no side to camp on. A dump truck I'd passed by barely even fit on it. I also had my first close encounters with wild forest animals. I'd already seen 2 boars and 3 deer in these 2 hours alone. One of the deer had run parallel to my bike while intently staring at me, and I had no idea what to think about it. I felt like it could smell my fear and did it just to make it worse. How dare the thing do that to a human? We're the kings of this planet, damn it! I'd have to remember to eat some venison once I came back to civilization. Within the first year, they put an effort to stop people streaming beyond a certain point, but after that, they stopped doing that. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, me playing through this game, which I've always wanted to do, in full, may end up inspiring some of you folks to pick it up. In which case, my argument is, what is playing through a game in full if it still guarantees potential sales? Anyway, camping out here was a bad idea. I'd end up either as roadkill or animal food. And yet I didn't back out. Why? Because I'm a pretty warped sort of guy. I won't pretend otherwise. That was actually the reason why my once comfortable relationship had gone awry, and why I'd gone on this stupid trip. Still, despite acknowledging that, I chose to keep moving forward. It wasn't like I'd find a place to stay if I went back. I was actually starting to think that this experience might make a good conversation piece sometime down the road. It was really getting late at this point. Where would these roads take me anyway? It'd probably be disappointing. Soon enough, the road became flat. I was out of the mountain pass. The forest remained abundant, though, so I didn't see much. Even so, the streetlights and signs were enough to make me feel I was again nearing civilization. Was streetlights the right expression for lights in a forest? I'd have to look that up. As the road grew less rugged, I realized just how exhausted I was. All this bike handling had left my hands really sore, too. I really had to rest. Suddenly I saw something unexpected. Powerful, colourful, artificial lights. A convenience store? Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was next to an intersection between the road I was on and another, even thinner road that could probably only support a single car. Those are the worst roads, by the way. We've got a fuck ton of them around here where I live, and the official speed limit is 60 miles per hour, and people come bounding down these thin, windy, single-car width roads at 60 miles an hour. It terrifies the shit out of me. The sea of trees ended, giving room for the majestic child of our consumerist society. Who localized this? Christina, was this you? Yeah, that was an exaggeration. Apparently even a damn store was a big deal for someone who'd just stepped out of the wild. It was called Fresh Mark. I'd seen several of them a few times during the day. It was probably a local franchise. The building didn't look all that old. At least the parking lot looked a lot smoother compared to the roads. It was a pretty weird place to build something like that, though. Was I close to a settlement? Or did they actually make a profit off of lost travelers? I just asked that or something. A local shopkeeper was bound to know what was around these parts, not to mention I was thirsty. I was welcomed by a weird chime sound. It looked like a normal convenience store. There were goods on the shelves, a counter on the left, and... whoa! The worker at the counter was so mean-looking it was scary. She was so imposing I couldn't have doubted if someone told me she was in charge of some ladies' army corps. Was that supposed to be a greeting? It was so damn cold it actually gave me the chills. Was this store shadier than it appeared? Was I about to be stupidly overcharged? Was this how this place made a profit, by taking advantage of lost people and basically beating them out of their money? Shit, that was scary. Clearly the Wonderland had only just begun. Woohoo! I sure was excited for the beating. I grew more nervous and less enthusiastic by the second. I braced myself and she just looked down at a magazine in her hands. Oh, so she was just a slacker. Slightly disappointed, I walked around the store. It was about what you'd expect. There was a small shelf with energy drinks, followed by some stationeries, travel goods, sanitary stuff, etc., etc. There were sweets that came with toys, a shelf of cup ramen and dried food, A fridge, a freezer, it all looked. It was so late, so the daily dish and packed lunch section was completely empty. The only special thing about this place was the section full of unpacked vegetables you'd expect to see at a greengrocer's. Maybe all rural convenience stores were like this? I was slightly surprised by that, but there weren't any local fine foods or anything, so all in all it was an unremarkable store, if you ignored the clerk anyway. I took a drink and brought it to the register. Yep, she really was the highlight of this place. What kind of clerk smokes while dealing with a customer? Yes, I was actually buying. She was the clerk and I'd be her god, the customer.
126 円
She didn't even scan it. The exchange was at the mercy of the clerk. God is dead. Maybe I had to get mad at her?
ちょっといいですか?
Can I ask something?
あ
実は道に迷ってしまって。
Like, no shit, you're lost. I quickly turned mean.
町はどっちにあるでしょうか?
あっち
いや、その、できれば地図とか。
You have a map or something?
ない
Oh man. This woman.
いや、そんなはずはないでしょ。コンビニなんて大体道聞かれるから、地図は常備してるもんでしょ。
知らねえよないもんはねえおとなしく来た道戻れよ
もう数時間迷ってるもんで、これ以上はちょっと。
その辺の床で寝てけば
She had to be joking.
いや、お気持ちだけでいいんで、道だけちゃんと教えていただけたら。
ああもううっせえな待ってろ
The clerk put out a smoke in the ashtray and went off to the staff-only area. She came back in no time.
あったわ
So she did have a map, of course she did. Even more ill-tempered than usual, the clerk started giving an explanation.
これがこの店で十字路北へ行けしばらくしたら立教があっから渡れ最初の分岐のとこに大岩があっから
A fork in the road
ここを右折して
next to a giant boulder. Isn't that a scene in the Muppet movie?
この道?
んだよ
いや、この先何もなくないです。
書かれてねえだけで集落があんだよ
そこ以外なら
富士吉村まで行くには峠道を2時間こっちなら30分で着く
Fujiyoshi seemed to be a village. It didn't look too far away, but the road leading to it was a huge branching mess. It was clearly just a paved mountain pass. I'd had enough of those for one day. I'd probably just get lost again.
じゃあ、こっち行ってみます。ありがとうございます。
金
はい。
払ってねえだろ
ああ、じゃあ500円。なぜ、お釣りを無断で募金箱に入れるんですか?
Put the money in the collection box.
小銭多いとうぜえだろ
That was a hell of a line. I casually thanked her, grabbed the plastic bottle of tea, she didn't even give me a bag by the way, and left the store. She seems incredibly pleasant. I drank the tea in the parking lot and looked up at the moon, obscured by clouds, but still bright enough to outshine the light of the convenience store. The clerk put me in a bad mood though, so I didn't enjoy the sight. I threw the bottle into a nearby trash can and aggressively drove away. Following the directions, I crossed the overpass and arrived at the first fork in the road. The byway she'd told me about was really narrow. I don't want to spoil this game, but this scene makes me have specific emotions redacted for spoilers emotions. Does that lady turn you on? Because I totally understand. A woman who can beat you up is, you know, it's safe horny. I probably wouldn't have noticed it if it were not for the tall boulder standing there like a roadside shrine for some traveller deity. Turning carefully, I got on the road. A minute later, I found myself in an even worse wilderness than before. A veil of dead leaves covered the ground, tall grass sided the path, and the sky above was blocked by overgrown shrubs, making it feel like I was passing a wooden tunnel. The road itself was a huge red flag. It was a wonder why I didn't just turn around. The exchange from before might have pissed me off more than I thought. Still, I didn't really expect the road to just end. It happened about 15 minutes in. The view ahead suddenly turned strangely dark, and a split second later, the bike tipped forward. I reflexively hit the brakes, but it was too late. It started going down a cliff. My bike tilted downwards, and its suspension was put to the greatest test yet, as we basically tumbled down to the bottom. The headlights suddenly shone on some dirt and grass. I knew then that I'd be flung out of my seat. Stifling a scream, I tried to work some steering and brake magic to slow down without collapsing. But that was too big a task for a simple road bike. At the bottom of the cliff, it jumped higher than ever before. The suspension couldn't handle the impact, and I was launched into the air. A moment later, I heard a crash and felt an impact, after which came an unpleasant pain. Was there something in the tea? An accident where I was flung out like that was a first for me. The launch was really something too. I did a 360 in the air, a gnarly kickflip, and a Benahana, followed by a Christ air, and fell on my back. My breathing stopped for a moment, and the pain was so bad I thought all my bones shattered. My face and limbs seemed pretty fine at least, though I wasn't sure if that was counted as a silver lining. There was grass under my hands. I felt it even through the gloves. That and the smell of green made it pretty clear what I landed on. I pushed down and my head sank. My hand sunk. Opposite way around. The grass growth was pretty hefty. It was probably the reason why I came out relatively okay. Landed in a giant, mound of kudzu. Sure, my joints creaked when I stood up, but aside from that, I was fine. It was really dark, so I couldn't really confirm it, but I was pretty sure I wasn't even bleeding. My bike, however, wasn't nearly as lucky. It was lying on its side a short distance ahead. The engine was still on. Back wheel kept on turning, making an unpleasant fricative noise. Yep, it was busted. I walked up, killed the engine, and took the key. With the headlights off, I was surrounded by absolute darkness, so I just stood and waited until my eyes adjusted. I still couldn't see very clearly, but it looked like this actually wasn't a cliff. I was still on the road, it just wasn't paved beyond this point. Obviously, a road bike stood no chance against an unpaved road. That woman actually tried to kill me! Zigzagging through the trees, I followed the narrow footpath deeper into the forest. I tried getting my bike up and running again, but instantly gave up. It was partially stuck in the mud, so there was the risk of it slipping and getting me into another accident. Maybe I had to turn around? The moment I considered that, I saw a faint light ahead. If that woman wasn't lying, this road led to a settlement. Was I close? I reached into my jacket's pocket, took out my phone, and opened it up. As you'd expect, I was out of range. I ran the light app and shone a light to see better. Though weak, it was better than nothing. At the very least, it helped me watch where I was going. I had no idea how long I'd been walking for, but sure enough, I could see a light beyond the shrubs. It was weaker than expected. Flashlight, perhaps? I could hear water, too. I might have been near a river. I raised my voice. Still declaring my presence, I walked forward. It was late at night. Were I to bump into someone here, the scare would probably take away a few years of our lives. That's why I figured it was best for us both to let the other know we were here before that happened. However, there was no response. Did they not hear me over the rapids? I shone my light ahead and realized I'd made it to an opening. Sure enough, there was a river, or a stream rather. I could see slightly more, wow, than I had while surrounded by trees. Straining my eyes, I saw a rocky river beach and the shallows. The light I'd seen was on the other side. From what I could tell, it was either a lantern or a flashlight, and it was close to the ground. I didn't see any people there. No one responded to my shouting either. I wasn't excited about it, but I decided to step into the water. The cold water quickly soaked my shoes and socks. I could have taken them off, but I figured that crossing a river barefooted at midnight was a bad idea. But man, was it cold. I put my phone back into my jacket. I needed both my hands free in case I fell. Not stopping or backing down, I walked toward the light. It suddenly became deeper. The water reached my knees now. I was too close for comfort. Feeling the bottom with my toes and balancing myself, I somehow avoided losing my footing. The flow was fiercer than I'd expected. If I slipped and fell, I'd probably be washed away. He's walking towards the light, and he's struggling to not drown. He's passed on, hasn't he? It suddenly hit me that I was doing something really weird, but it was too late to back down. Putting my hands on the boulders and carefully checking what I was stepping on, I gradually made it to the other side. Then, with an unpleasant wet sound in every step, I walked to the light. I could already see it clearly. Yep, it was a flashlight laying on the ground for some reason. There wasn't much space here. It was a narrow riverbank with a cliff right beside it. As you'd expect, I didn't see or sense anyone nearby. What the hell? Though old, the flashlight was working fine. The strength of the light told me the battery was pretty full. That meant that someone was actually using this tonight, or rather until just a few moments ago. That was the most logical conclusion. It obviously wasn't left here yesterday afternoon or evening. And yet the user was nowhere in sight, and I was near a river. Did something bad happen? Did the flashlight's owner step into the stream and get swept away? That was most likely, and worst, possible scenario. However, the flashlight was left there practically buried in pebbles. It didn't seem like someone placed it there to light things up. It was the dead of the night. There was no way you wouldn't notice dropping your flashlight when it was so dark. Right. The fact that a light source was left in a place like this was strange by itself. With that considered, what was going on here? What if someone heard my stupid shouting and decided to lure me in with a light so they could ambush me? Where would they attack from? Above?
こんばんは。
I heard a voice the moment I looked up. The rock cliff was actually made up of several boulders. There was a face peeking from behind one of them.
こんばんは。
ああ、人だ。びっくりした。
That was my line.
悪いんだけど、それ取ってもらえます？
The voice was feminine. I finally realized what was going on.
落としたってわけですか。
I picked up the flashlight and pointed it at the source of the voice.
やん。
It is her! It's her off the cover! I think she's very cute. I sure hope I don't have to watch her get eviscerated. High-pitched voice, slender hands shielding the light. Sure enough, it was a young woman.
眩しいな。
お、失礼。ちなみに、こっちはこういうものですが。
怖いです。下から照らさない。
実は、当方道に迷っており。
だとすると、割と究極的に迷ってますよ。
Yeah, thought as much.
ここって、人里です。
難しい質問だな。
とりあえず、助けてもらえないかと。
助ける？
雨露しのげて、野生動物がいなければ何でもいいんで。
Standing on a boulder, the young woman made a pensive face.
じゃあ、打ちきます？
Fuck yes! Didn't realize it was that kind of game. Oh ho ho ho! Whoa ho 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 ho! And that was the conclusion she'd arrived at. Her face told me she was 100% serious. Place. My place. By that, she surely meant a house. Settlement.
いいんです。頼んどいてなんですが、遠慮を忘れてすがりたい程度には切羽詰まってるんですが。
He's actually desperate enough to not hold himself back. What's he admitting to?
え？男として？
ええ。いや違う。 一個の生命として数時間迷った挙句バイクでこけて心身ともに限界ってわけです。
あらら。なら見捨てるのもどうよって感じじゃないです？一個の生命として。
A person? Man, what kind of living being would I be? Right. Either she's an animal, or she's a ghost pretending to be a living being, aka former living being. And so I was saved. Oh, the beauty of living beings looking out for each other.
じゃあ手いいです？
You want to Netflix and chill? That's the thing, this cutie I would. Anyway, your hand, please.
ここ一人じゃ登れないでしょ？
True. Honestly, I didn't even realize I'd have to. Meeting another person filled me with relief, which was followed by a sudden wave of fatigue. It wasn't crippling, though. She extended her left hand, so I grabbed it with my own left. Her slender fingers were stronger than I expected. The girl's name was Chiemi Serizawa. Make note of it. We'll be looking on Rule 34 later. I asked if she was related to the Shinsen Gumi guy, but she said that her family just adopted the name at some point in the Meiji period. She was a 21-year-old who went to a college far away from here. Legal. This was her hometown. She was spending her post-exams vacation here. We chatted about stuff like that once she had led me out of the rocky ravine. There was actually a proper path, so the rock climbing was pretty pointless, but I was too focused on my footing to comment. She told me about herself as soon as we reached solid ground.
ちなみにそちらは？
名前は久石春明。東京で大学院生やってます。
あ、じゃあちょっと年上。
24だから、芹沢さんと3つ違いかな。でもまあ、同世代でしょ。
ちえみでいいですよ。敬語とかもいらないです。
じゃあ僕も、呼び捨てタメ口がいいな。
ですか？
女の子に親しくされてるみたいで。
Yeah, I bet you do, fucking horn dog.
なるほど。実は私も堅苦しい。
I like it when girls are nice to me. I don't like stiff socializing.
どうぞどうぞ。ちなみに、まだ結構遠い？
そうでもないかな。もう5分くらい頑張りましょい。
What a lively girl. You could tell she was used to people.
ただ、足元に気をつけて、明かりだけ見て。
何かあるの？
この辺、石ころだらけで危ないんだ。
The moment she said that, I stumbled on a rock too big to be called a pebble.
あと、今夜はずいぶん暗いしね。
I couldn't even see the moon anymore. Nodding in agreement, I focused on following the light in her hand.
ちょっと待っててもらえます？着替えちゃうんで。
She's gotta change. And so I did just that. Boring! Given this was a mountain settlement, I'd expected some old wooden house, but she actually lived in an apartment block. It was too dark to get a good look at it. All I could see were the cheap-looking walls you'd expect from some old boarding house for students. Also, she lived on the second floor, in room 202. I'd heard some raindrops as we were climbing the rusty stairs, but now it was really pouring. Between that, the darkness, and the large tree next to the building, it was nearly impossible to see what was going on outside. It felt like I was all alone in a world of nothing but walls, the door, and the fluorescent lamp above my head. It made me feel somewhat helpless. I distracted myself from that by imagining her changing. I bet you did. Eventually the door opened up. Sorry about the wait, come in. All smiles, she showed herself, now wearing sports clothes. This was kind of exciting.
何にもないでしょ？
何にもないね。
でも冷蔵庫の中は、
素晴らしい。
飲みますか？
やったぜ！
I've actually seen this CG. Yeah, her place really was empty. It was just a small room with a low table in the middle, a fridge near the door, and a large duffel bag deeper in. There were 2 old-looking bookshelves too, but they were completely empty. I wasn't bothered one bit though. Any girl's room was a wonderland to me.
じゃあ大変だった春明さんにお疲れ様。
地獄で出会った仏様に乾杯。
Meet a random girl, you go to her house, and you let her get you drunk? This really is a horror game. We opened up our cans, knocked them together, and downed them. Hey, it was actually good! The pleasant bitterness and the refreshing carbonation made for a good combo.
おいしい。このためだけに生きてる。
I actually got rid of all my... well, not all my beers, but, so many of them were out of date because I stopped drinking. I think I got 2 beers here. I think I got a Brewdog and I got a Trooper. And that's it. I don't drink as much as I used to. I totally ruined myself. If you wanted to voice a second character like the second most talking character, Chiemi's a good choice. Oh. Chiemi and... what was the guy's name? Say it in a tree.
その若さでそれはないでしょう。
Haruaki. There is no way I'm ever going to remember Haruaki. 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 Come on, you're too young to say that. Too young to say what? I wasn't paying attention. So good I live for this.
言い過ぎた。
Yeah, you're right. I'm not despairing my future or love life
まだ
yet.
絶望してません。
ところ
You
が
hear that? That's the sound of
就
job
活という影が
hunting.
迫る。
It's coming here fast.
いややめて。せっかくのビールがまずくなる。
Don't I know all about job hunting? She laughed and took a huge sip. It was pretty clear she could hold her drink. And aside, something really bothered me.
お誘いに乗っておいてなんだけど、
何？
Her cheeks were already red. Maybe she didn't handle her liquor as well as I thought. She had a well-featured face. And I didn't think it was wrong to consider her beautiful. I don't think it's wrong to consider her beautiful either. What? Sure, her clothes weren't the least bit sexy, but I could tell she had some makeup on.
僕は完全に正体不明の自称迷い人だよね。
そうね。
君は年頃の女性、今は深夜。ワンルームの密室で男と二人っきり。その上アルコールまで入ってしまった。
You get what I'm putting down?
おお。
That's right, I'm a pipe layer.
身の危険を感じたりとかは？
She kept gulping the drink even as she formulated a response. The very fact that I could just watch her do that made this a pretty risky situation, and yet...
あんまりないかな。
それは。
芹沢千恵美クイズ。
イエーイ。
問題。ふと気づいたら低層が瀬戸際。にもかかわらず、芹沢千恵美は特に身の危険を感じない。なぜでしょう？
What a fun girl. This only made me like her more, increasing the danger even further.
質問 OK？
どうぞ。
僕のことがいい人っぽいという答えはなしでいいかな。
悪い人に見えるってわけじゃないけど、まあなしかな。女の子慣れしてそうだし。
I look experienced with women. That's how I know I'm not the main character of this game. The unintentional compliment showed that she actually did see me as a potential danger.
考えられる回答は大きく2つ。想定外だが何が起きても問題ない。もしくは想定通り。前者はいろいろ考えられるかな。例えば、ちえみちゃんが何かやけっぱちになっていて、どうにでもなるって場合。あるいは、十分な自衛手段がある。実は護身術の達人で、僕なんか軽く乗せるとかね。
おー、論理的。春明さん理系だね。
I'm not a scientist. I just play one on TV.
まあそうかな。一方で後者、つまりこの状況が君の想定通りって場合は、
例えば私がエロエロですとか。
Wow, talk about no mincing words.
や 他には何があるでしょう。
Indeed, what other reason could a woman have to bring a stranger to her home? It would surely be something non-standard like,
僕の存在が君の利益になる例。
want to use me somehow.
例えばアリバイ工作。君がここにいたと後日僕が証言することで君が有利になる。
おお、ちゃっかり利用するわけだ。
Clever.
あるいはちえみちゃんが恐るべき殺人鬼で僕を酔っ払わせてぶっ殺す。
はあ、ヤマンバ、いいね。ブッシュブッシュ殺しちゃう。
I'm a thirsty pervert, and the art has that expression. I think there's a little bit. I think there is some relevance to that. What kind of sound effect was that?
ちなみに前提で出た2つのケースの他に
え
1つあるよ。
Tell me.
あれ
うん、私がとってもいい人で春明さんを助けてあげたい一心だっていうケース。
Was it time for me to be ashamed of my filthy mind? No.
いやでもそれで自分が襲われるかもって考えたら。
わあ、襲うって言っちゃったよこの人。
No?
一般論ね。
She stopped talking and turned red. It was so cute. I thought she was actually doing it on purpose. Man, was she drunk. We were just on her second cans.
じゃあこういうのは止めないともっとひどいことになる。それはさすがに忍びないなとか。
That's fair.
ごめん、もうちょっと詳しく。
この辺りには怖い野生動物が出ます。明日にはこの人はズタズタに引き裂かれてしまうかもしれません。
Why were you out then? In the middle of the night.
このまま見捨てたらとても寝覚めの悪い思いをするかもしれません。それならまあ止めてあげようかしら。
なるほど。リスクと善意を天秤にかけるってわけか。これは
Something doesn't add up. Why were you out in the middle of the night?
想定外か。この人だいぶ悪い人なんじゃないかって気がしてきたな。
そう？
だって善意を選択肢に入れる前に殺人鬼とかアリバイとかエロエロとかさ。
That's fair.
ヘロエロは君が言い出したんでしょうが。
そうだったっけ？で、答えは？
これって単なるバカ話じゃないの？
正解者には素敵なプレゼント。不正解者はブッシュブッシュ殺します。
Seriously? I want to answer with number 20, but I don't know what it is. You'd feel guilty if you let me die.
ピンポーン、正解です。
Oh, cool.
まあ実際この辺危ないしね。鹿にイノシシに野犬にクマ。正解者には素敵なプレゼント。不正解者はブッシュブッシュ殺します。ピンポーン。
What?
正解です。
Woohoo!
まるでエッジ漫画のような展開。正解おめでとう。さあかかってこい。
Yeah, right.
だが待ってほしい。迷った先で好都合な展開というのは物語上明らかに後々ガクッと落とすための前振りである。
あ、確かに狐に化かされたとか亡霊、つまり私にたたり殺されたりとかシャレにならない病気移されたりとか。
そうそう。
テレレレレテレレレレテレレレレテテレレレレ。さあ世にも奇妙な扉を開こうぜ。
What?
やめとく。
ガーン。
This girl was actually pretty sharp. She really had a way with words and knew how to capitalize on it. I almost felt like she was implying that I couldn't let my guard down just because I was a guy. I admitted she was pretty damn attractive, but I felt like I'd have more fun just talking about lewd stuff than acting on it. The last thing I remembered was our little... when was the last time you pissed yourself while sleeping talk? I had to tell her about the time I got so drunk I wet my pants in the middle of the boarding house. She had laughed so hard she started frothing at the mouth and passed out. I woke up with a splitting headache. Oh man. Morning already? Light poured through the frosted window. I looked down. I've been opened up and my organs have been dissected. We replaced your heart with a potato. You have 5 seconds to live. I pulled out my phone and checked the time, 7 in the morning. I'd gone to sleep somewhere between 2 and 3, which probably wasn't quite enough sleep. At least I didn't wake up to some horror movie scene. The building wasn't in ruins and the girl wasn't actually a skeleton. No, this isn't a Song of Saya. Though in a way, this might have been worse. She was spread out on the floor on the other side of the mini-table. Her breathing was mixed with some weird gurgling sounds. I hesitantly looked at her. The saint that had saved me from the hell I was in last night had puked in the middle of her sleep. What was I supposed to do here? As a guest, I couldn't really be too harsh on her.
Chiemi-chan?
She wasn't waking up. Well, I'd do what little I could. She wasn't waking up. I undid the buttons. There, that should be enough. I'd used tons of toilet paper to clean up her mess and flush it down the toilet. It left a stain on the floor, but it was dirty to begin with, so whatever. I'd even wet a towel and cleaned her face. Even then she showed no signs of waking up. Some of it was on her hair and clothes, but I figured it was best if she took care of that herself.
Chiemi-chan.
Asa?
The first hint of consciousness so far today.
ちょっと出ておくから。
Without waiting for a response, I walked to the entrance. She'd have to take a shower and change and all that, so I'd kill time outside. I stepped into my still damp shoes with my bare feet. My socks were in the washing machine with the towel she gave me to wipe my legs, and reached for the doorknob. I opened the door and was greeted by a gust of wind. The raindrops gathered on the leaves of the tree next to the building, flew right into my face, making me grimace. The rain from last night was already over. The sky was pretty clear, but despite that, I noticed the visibility of my surroundings was poor. The building was surrounded by leaves. The old structure was basically buried in a forest of trees about as tall as itself. There were branches poking into the exposed hallway. It almost felt like they'd reach out and grab me if I wasn't careful. I kind of felt like I was in an overgrown ruin. I turned around and saw the room in Chiemi just as I'd left them. Yep, it was all real. I closed the door. There were other rooms in this building, which made me wonder if they were occupied. Hell, I wondered the same thing about the area in general. I pushed the branches aside to see if there were any other buildings nearby. Suddenly, something entered my vision. It was a brothel. It didn't feel right. Something that shouldn't have been there. The leaves moved. The leaves I moved revealed a woman clad in curious clothing. The moment I recognized her as such, she opened her closed eyes. Did our eyes meet? Another strong wind. I shielded my face from the spray of raindrops. When I looked outside again, the woman was nowhere in sight. Was that an illusion? If not, then what? What kind of place was this? It could have been a real Hicksville, a marginal village, a bunch of actual ruins, or an illegal settlement. I had some theories, but I set them aside for now. It seemed like a place worth exploring, regardless. I went down the stairs and found no sign of the woman, or anyone else for that matter. A short distance away from the building, I turned around and, sure enough, it was pretty much covered in trees. I went to the place where I saw the woman. There were footprints in the grass here. Maybe I'd find her if I followed them. They led me to an open area. It was unused, but it looked like someone was trying to do something with it. Was it supposed to be a construction site? The tutorial girl. Oh, I spooked her. She's gone. That's the tutorial girl? But she's not chibi! She's not chibi! Even if it was clearly abandoned. There were large rocks and lots of sediment near a prefab. From what I could tell, there had been a giant landslide which forced them to stop construction. The fact that plant growth was still minimal meant it had happened fairly recently. The footprints seemed to be going down the hill next to the site. following them, I finally saw something that could be called civilization. I'm here right now. There was a set of paddy fields with houses nearby. So this was actually a settlement. What a relief. I decided to keep following the footprints and approach the settlement. I came across another unpaved path that was clearly used by people and cars. It was lined with weeds and bushes reaching up to my waist. It was home to caterpillars and grasshoppers and fleas and cicadas and worms, among other things. Spiders were no exception. There was no shortage of insects there, so it was a good place for a net. I wasn't particularly scared of spiders, but I didn't like them either. At least they were just harmless orb weavers. She can be chibi when she wants to be. Ah, so she's one of them shapeshifters. She has me curious about this Chiemi. Regardless, I avoided these bushes just in case, and followed the path like the good city boy I was. Good shitty boy. There was a large boulder surrounded by grass. It was strangely tall, making it look like it was put there by people. On its dewy surface there was a grey tree frog, ready to go after the many insects scattered about. I walked a little bit further and came across a house with a small field nearby. The field's location made it safe to assume it belonged to the inhabitants. If there were inhabitants, anyway. I didn't see anyone. And just like always, there was grass everywhere. There was another boulder standing next to the house. This one was obviously placed there by human hand. What was the point? Was it a monument or something? The footprints continued into the field. The wet mud on the field was full of small, young, but healthy-looking rice plants. If you ignored the standing boulders in the area, the place looked like a normal farming village. Boulders laid out in specific positions, like an incantation circle. I was both relieved and worried at the same time. For what I saw, there weren't any other buildings besides the ones in the settlement. Everything beyond was just mountains, meaning that this place was completely isolated. And I was a complete outsider. There was no way things would go well if I ran into a random local. I belatedly crouched to hide myself a bit. It was probably best for me to go back. Chiemi might have been looking for me. Suddenly, I heard a sound. I heard a sound. I turned around. I turned around to find the thing that made the sound. I looked for its source and found a speaker on a wooden utility pole in the middle of a small plaza. A morning broadcast? I'd never heard this tune before. It was cheerful at first, but had some parts that seemed really dark. I found it unsettling. Perplexed, I stopped walking, and what happened next made me shit myself. There was a person in the area densely surrounded by houses, but they weren't normal. What was with that appearance? What was that on her face? Though I was a fair distance away, I could see an old woman with some sort of cloth over her face shakily walk out from between the buildings. Oddly enough, there were boulders even there. But what was weirder was the fact she walked up to one of them, lightly joined her hands and bowed her head before it, her face still hidden. Then all was silence. It actually looked like she was revering it. To me, it looked like she was praying to it. This was bad. Extraordinarily bad. I wandered into a settlement with a unique culture, to put it lightly. Forget causing trouble, an outsider like me could get killed here. I just turned around and ran for it. I was running up that hill, dashing up that building, if I only could, past the house, through the construction site, until I arrived back at the apartment building. Chiemi looked like a relatively reasonable person. Maybe she could tell me what was up. It just hit me that the way she described this place was somewhat weird. She basically said it wasn't normal.
あるいは、ちえみちゃんが恐るべき殺人鬼で僕を酔っ払わせてぶっ殺す。
はあ、ヤマンバ。いいね。ブッシュブッシュ殺しちゃう。
And some evil mountain witch. What if she was actually the bait they used to lure outsiders here? What? Eventually the broadcast stopped. Chiemi still hadn't come out of her room. She didn't respond even when I knocked or called out to her. I didn't have to worry about this, right? That just made my inexplicable unease grow worse. Sploosh, sploosh. How exactly is that?
はあ、ヤマンバ。いいね。ブッシュブッシュ殺しちゃ。
Sploosha, sploosha. What if this was a trap? Was I in a dangerous situation? I had to talk to her. If she was a normal person anyway. Maybe the best option was to run away right now? I wouldn't know where to run. I couldn't remember the path we'd taken here. Though I was pretty sure we'd went uphill, so maybe I'd have to go down? If I avoided the settlement and went back to the mountain stream, I could escape by following the wild roads. That was my best option, even with the difficulties considered. Thankfully, I'd taken my bag with me. I took out a 5,000 yen note and put it in Chiemi's newspaper box. It was payment for last night's beer. The moment I turned around to take my leave, the door to the room next to the staircase opened slightly with a creak. I saw an eye glaring at me through the gap. A high-pitched scream pierced my eardrums. I screamed too, scared shitless, and ran for it. Suddenly, I stepped onto the wet hallway floor at a bad angle. I fell. Thud, thud, thud. Sploosha, sploosha!
はるちゃん、どうした？
うん、誰このおっちゃん。
あなた、誰ですか？っていうか、大丈夫ですか？
The reasonable-sounding voice prompted me to shake off the pain and raise my head. There were two boys in formal-looking school uniforms. That ain't a boy.
大丈夫ですか？
He repeated the question.
ああ、ちょっと驚いただけで。
おっちゃん、知恵姉の友達？
Chieni?
ああ、ちえみちゃんのことか。
大学のお知り合いですか？お知り合いが来るなんて聞いてなかった。
いや、いろいろあって助けられたんだ。怪しいものじゃ
There's
ないんだ。
nothing shady about
怪
me.
しく見えるだろうけど。
If you have to say that,
怪しいな、おっちゃん。
どうすればいいのかな。とりあえず、名前は房石春明と言います。
僕は織部安永です。こっちは鴨志田近持ち。
モッチーだ。
good to know. If I called him that, maybe he'd stop calling me old man. I was only 24.
それでこっちが。はるちゃん何してんの？
だって知らない人が。
Oh, Haru-chan was the person. That's fine, okay. Apologies, Chika Mochi Mochi Chika Mochi-chan, for assuming. That's on me. I'm gonna get Pokemon. Ugh. Pokemon Fizz. This is French candy by a French company. You can get... These are the varieties of Pokemon in this product. Pikachu, Evoli, Bulbasaur, Salamechi, et Carapucci. Or Pikachu, Eevee, Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle. I've had these before and they are fucking awful, but they are also 2 for £1 in... They're 2 for £1 in farm foods, so... It's cost-effective candy. There's nothing shady about me, just don't Google my name or mind the guns I clearly don't have on. Apparently this Haru-chan was the person who'd looked at me through the gap in the door and screamed. Let's see her, I bet she's cute.
とりあえず大丈夫そうだから出ておいでよ。
A moment later, she slammed the door shut, and after a few more moments of hesitation, opened it again. Relationship ended with Chiemi. Haru is my new best friend. My god, she's cute. Whoa! She looked like a student too, except her fashion sense was exceptionally flashy.
あなた誰？
久石春明といってこの近くでバイクで事故って芹沢千恵美さんに助けられたんだ。
え？それってもしかして昨日の夜知恵姉の部屋に。
Yes, I can see you're a fan of Valve games. You have the missing texture as an armband.
あ、うん。止め。
She cut my words short with her ear-piercing shriek.
通りで騒がしかったと思った。何考えてるの？嫁入り前の女性の家に不潔。
Oh my god, she's a prude!
ああ、うん。それはその通りで、僕もちょっと躊躇はしたんだけど、千恵美ちゃんが親切で。
千恵美ちゃん？あれなれしい。それじゃあもしかして知恵姉が出てこないのって。
She's not getting out. Getting out of what?
ドアに5000円挟んであるじゃん。
久石さん、まさか。違う。単に昨日お酒をおごられたからそのお返しで。
知恵姉の体が5000円ってそんな安いわけないでしょ。ただれてるな。
The hell were these kids saying?
ああ、君、助けてくれないか。
初対面で女性の部屋でお酒を飲んだんですか？そして知恵姉は出てこない。
Crap. I had no allies here.
一体何事？
And so the subject of the conversation joined in.
おお、千恵美ちゃん、君からも事情を説明。
Something was off about her aura. What happened to the lively girl she'd been yesterday?
知恵姉、まさか。
恥ずかしいとこを見られちゃった。
おお。いや、ちょっと待って、ちょっと。
もう嫁いけない。
What have I been accused of now? Man, what a mess. Though Chiemi's face was all pale, she was actually grinning. She obviously had a bad hangover, but that didn't stop her from messing around. After calming everyone down, Chiemi explained what actually happened. How we met in the middle of the night. How she let me stay out of goodwill. How we drank ourselves silly and how nothing happened between us. Absolutely nothing. I swear. If there are any accusations made later, whatever happened was consensual and didn't happen.
いやー、久々に深酒しちゃって思いっきり入っちゃったよ。春明さん、お見苦しいとこ申し訳ない。
ああ、いや、それはいいんだけど。
That Haru-chan girl still looked at me funny.
非常識。
ああ、うん。申し訳ない。
I like her
昨日は
already.
本
She's
当に
great.
疲労困憊でね。つい行為に甘えてしまったんだ。
ま あ知恵ねえだしな、雑把だよな。
事情も事情だし、年寄りたちも納得するかな。ちなみに会ったのってどこです？
The elders will be fine with me being here. What's really going on here at Stoneworld?
それはね、
下の方の河原だよ。
My words made everyone change their expressions.
それはちょっと。
大騒ぎだ。2日連続で2人もだなんて。
もしかしてまずいこと言った？
はあ、まあいずれバレることよ。さっきあれだけ大騒ぎしちゃったから休みず中に知れちゃった。
Yasumizu.
君、2日連続で2人もって何のこと？
I've said too much.
触らないで、汚い。
I wasn't trying to touch her and I wasn't filthy. Sure, I haven't had a bath in over a day, but still.
君、何が騒ぎになるの？
タエバあたりが拒否ってなる。
Tai Ba. Ba as in like Ba-chan, as in grandmother. Grandmother's gonna be furious.
詳しい話を聞かせてくれない？
ちょっと説明は難しいんですけど、まあここは田舎なんで
Things are different
町
here
と
than
い
in
ろい
the
ろ
city.
違うってことですよ。
This guy here was Oribe-kun. Ignore Chiemi, he was the easiest person to talk to.
どうすればいいかな？
まあちえみがなんとかしましょう。学生諸君はとりあえずご飯行かないと。この混乱には乗るっきゃない。
I wasn't trying to touch her and I wasn't filthy. Spoken like a true filthy weeb. I wasn't trying to touch her and I wasn't filthy, but my mind was.
乗るっきゃなくないもっち。とりあえず行っちゃいな。私らちょっと遅れていくから。
まあちょっと時間ずらした方がいいよね。揉めそうだし。
さすがやすくん、察しがいいぞ。
うん。
もう知恵ね、子供扱いはやめてよ。そうだ、うんこしてやるぞ。
ほらほら行くぞ、モッチーにはるちゃん。
She's gonna shit on me. He's gonna shit on me. They're gonna shit on me. The Cleveland steamer on my chest. And so the students walked off towards the stairs. It was kind of easy to tell what sort of relationship they had. Anyway.
彼らがこの建物の他の住人？
そういうこと。学生寮だからね、ここ。
A student dorm? In this Hicksville? Tennessee? Hicksville, huh? Something strikes me as off about the use of Hicksville. Still, my senses have betrayed me. There actually were other people here.
ちなみに春明さん、他の人と出会ってトラブったりしてないよね。
うん。一応それ警戒してたから。
ならよかった。よし、ちょっとしたら食堂に行きましょう。
Dining hall.
あ、朝食？
の、朝食は今から食べてください。食堂へは一応面通しをしに行くの。
Going to the dining hall to introduce me.
誰と？
よそ者が皿長からやってきたってことに文句を言いそうな人たち。
Oh, so like that Thai bar person.
お世話になります。
いいってことです。その代わり、朝のことは秘密で。
Well, you got drunk.
そりゃもちろん。ところで、皿長って何？
そう、皿長の瀬っていう川だけど、あの辺まとめて皿長って呼ぶの。
I'm starting to think that this is literally like a realm of the dead. And like Saranaga is a river, like the river Styx. And he walked through the river toward the light and it was only after he passed the river that he met Chiemi. Chiemi is on the other plane of existence. Just spitballing.
いわく
あの川は汚れていて死人が帰ってくるみたいな伝説がね。
Are we dead? Oh. So that's why they'd react.
他にもその手のルールというかしきたりみたいなのが
たくさんあります。なので基本ちえみちゃんにお任せを。
Gladly. On all fronts. Full frontal. Sorry.
ちな
Sorry.
みに身の危険とかは
ないない。でもいろいろ不愉快な思いをする前に早く出ていけた方がいいかも。
That's worrying.
そのための根回しに行くと
そうそう。
The settlement I'd strayed to was a weird place. At least the guide was reliable. And she wanted me to leave ASAP, huh? That was depressing. Chiemi gave me some cup ramen for breakfast. She boiled the water in a small electric kettle. The girl herself was too hungover to eat anything. I did take the opportunity to pay her back for last night's drinks in person, though. Then we made our way to the dining hall.
この岩って何なの
What are these boulders? What are all these heads? These are the faces of evil. You must conquer each one. Guess I better get going.
一応お守りみたいなもの昔からあるよ。
よそでは見たことないよ
ああ、言われたらそうかも。
She led me along a narrower path than I followed earlier. It didn't seem like any cars used this one. It was very farmy, I guess? This area was also littered with those boulders. Some were cracked, broken, or half buried in the fields. They were clearly religious symbols, but it didn't look like they were that important these days. Or were they? Now that I knew I was safe, I once again became curious about this place.
人だ
There's a person working on the field.
たくみ兄ちゃんだ。おはよ
Chiemi waved her hand. The man responded, but then froze
う。
midway.
じゃあ行きましょう。
いいの多分あの人僕の存在に驚いたんじゃ
大丈夫。どうせ後で食堂に来るから。
He'll be at the dining
説
hall
明は
soon.
その時にするってことで。
Everybody who spots me will be at the dining hall. Well, if she said so. As an outsider, I had no choice but to rely on her. This was the part of the village I saw this morning, where the buildings were more densely packed. I didn't notice it then, but it was actually kind of weird. Basically, it felt desolate. The wooden bungalows in particular were more or less overgrown, buried in tall grass and other greenery. If this was all I saw of the village and someone told me it was abandoned, I'd have easily believed it. However, two of the buildings stood out. There was a hall beyond the hill. It wasn't that big, but it looked grand and well maintained. The other building was obviously the dining hall. It looked a bit dirty, but I could tell there were people inside. From what I could tell, it was the most lively place in this poor excuse for a community. Okay, city boy. Judgy. Suddenly, the three students walked out chatting about something.
知恵ねと夫妻さん
サイドおはよう。ちょっと遅くない？モッチーがバカなことばっか言って遅くなっちゃったんだもん。
そうだ、僕が悪だ。味噌汁をよこせ。
まあ早足なら間に合うでしょう。みんなしっかり勉強しといで。
Behave in class.
みんな高校生なんだ
そう。山をぐーっと登ったところに分校があるんだ。私も
やたら不便だね
それでもみんなあの寮に住める分
We study in the community. We live in the community. It's a lovely community. We don't have outsiders in the community. Chiemi was entirely straight-faced when she told me that it's not all bad. At least we get to live in that dorm. There wasn't even a hint of a smile.
さあ
気合を入れて入りましょう。
Let's get psyched. Ooh, someone's a fan of Wolfenstein 3D.
そうしましょ
気合入んない。
We laughed a little and passed the curtain.
いらっしゃい。あら。
Welcome. Oh. The inside was as aged as the outside, but it looked well maintained. Are we talking about the building or are we talking about this lady?
ちえみちゃん、お客さん？
The hostess-looking lady asked. Though somewhat aged and fatigued, she was definitely beautiful. Agree. There were two others beside her. One was a lady in her 70s or 80s. She was probably the one I saw this morning, the silhouette matched. The other was a man who seemed a bit younger than her, probably in his late 60s. They were just sitting there. There was a menacing aura about them. Like JoJo's.
紹介するね。房石春明さん。昨日の晩、サラナガで迷ってたのを、ちえみが保護しました。
Saranaga? Their reactions were powerful. The lady gasped, while the two elders rose to their feet with alarm. The tension that was already there the moment I walked in reached its peak.
気にするのもわかるけど、これは単なる偶然です。あの子と違って、この人は素性が明らかだし、
Unlike that little girl.
旧道に突っ込んで事故ったって、
Hold up.
気の毒な事情もある。
Is there a lolly in this mountain community? Can I get myself a Solero?
そんなわけで、我々としてはこの人がちゃんと帰れるように手伝ってあげるのがいいとちえみは思います。どうですか、皆様方。
They were just standing there, menacingly. How dare they? After saying all that, Chiemi fell silent. The ball was in their court now.
まあ、それは大変。
Now that is troubling. The lady voiced a harmless opinion, careful not to upset the old people. It was pretty clear who was in charge. They were elders, in more ways than one. They were also welders.
ちいちゃんはなんで夜にサラナガなんぞ言っとったかね。
Thank you. This was my question. Fuck were you doing at the river at night time?
虫の知らせかな。前の日にあんなことあったし。
I had a hunch.
そいじゃあやっぱり読み人じゃないんかね。
Yomi Bito? From the conversation, it was pretty clear that something had happened before I'd arrived here. It was probably similar to what had happened to me. She had mentioned some little girl. Perhaps there was a child who had wandered in here like I did. According to Chiemi, the Saranaga Rapids were a place of significance around here. It was a place from which dead people came to life or whatever. So this Tai must have been the E-lady the boy had mentioned earlier, and the Yomibito must have been the term for the dead who came from there. Apparently, the primary goal here was convincing these elders to approve helping. The old man's voice put my derailed mind back on track.
はい、東京です。
いくつじゃ？
年は24です。
地位より上じゃが。
He chuckled. I immediately realized he was taking a jab at me for hiding behind a younger girl.
申し遅れました。房石春明です。芹沢さんにも紹介された通り、バイクで事故って迷い込みました。どうやら僕は、ここでは異分子のようで、変なことを言ったりしたりして、皆さんに迷惑かけたくないなと。それで、芹沢さんに紹介をお願いしたんですが、僕から改めてお願いします。すぐ出て行きますから、それまでは僕の存在を多めに見ていただけないかと。それと、 僕を助けてくれた芹沢さんを責めないであげてください。
春明さん。
おそらく芹沢さんはここの常識を外れたところで僕を助けてくれたんだと思うんですが、
まあ
これでも大人です。自分の責任は自分で取りますし、皆さんにかけた迷惑は
I think his over-explaining of things makes him come across worse.
ですので、どうかお願いします。
I bowed my head.
ちゃんとしとる、タイバ
あたしゃすかんわね。そんなに髪茶色に染めてから。
Look at his hair, all colored brown. Shit, I forgot. I didn't look very presentable to more traditionalist people.
よそは皆こうよ。はよ返せばええ。
ほいじゃ好きにしなさいね。
Thank you, Taibar. I guess I got their half-hearted approval.
春明。春か。うちの孫も春じゃ。紛らわしい。
あ、もしかして
そう、春ちゃんのおじいさんの牧島勘三さんよ。
Oh, he's Haru's grandfather. Yeah, no way I'm getting his approval to marry his granddaughter. I think I should focus on Chiemi instead. They were elders in more ways than one. They were also trees. No, wait, they were just wrinkled. My mistake. But one thing was for sure. They wanted me to leave. They wanted me to make like a tree and leave.
どうも。
I didn't know what else to say. Haru-chan and I weren't on the best of terms so far. Anyway, it seemed like we were past the difficult part.
サラナガに突っ込んだか。
Drove into Saranaga, eh?
いえ、コンビニで道を聞いた後、脇道に入って未舗装になったところで滑り落ちて横転しました。
で、サラナガ登ったか。なぜ途中で引き返さねえ。
Well, he wasn't impressed by my choice of actions. It just hit me that I had no idea how much time passed between the crash and my meeting with Chiemi.
わしと匠で見てきちゃる。
Takumi and I'll go see it.
匠は他を見よるわよ。
タイバ、追い出す思うて手伝わせ。
カンちゃんはいっつもそうね。
ばあちゃん、おやさん、どうした？
We're joined by a new inhabitant.
ちえみ、こいつは？
あ、匠姉ちゃん。
Ask Takumi. Oh, so he was the one we saw on the field. Wow, he sure looked big from up close. All that field work was good for his muscles, clearly. And from what I could tell, he was in his 30s. As Chiemi introduced me to him and told him of my situation, I found out his name, Takumi Mura.
ああ、そいつは災難だったな。ああ、おやさん。
わしとお前で拾う。
じゃあな。ばあちゃん、こいつ助けっからちょっと待っててな。もう農薬は巻き終わってるから。
I already spread the stuff on the fields.
匠は優しいね。
こんな。
そうね。
Spread the stuff on the fields.
お兄ちゃんや。
え、僕ですか？はい。
ここは安水言うてね。
You're in Yasumizu. It ain't a good place. It was the place that wasn't good, not my presence here?
あたしらもよそのもんが苦手だし、よそのもんも触れんがええ。じゃから、はよ出てお行き。
Okay.
はい、そのつもりです。
話はついた感じか？
I just noticed that this Haruaki guy speaks like Masahiro Sakurai.
ありがとう。
Like his mannerisms. I was beginning to understand how things worked here. Although Kanzo Makishima's voice was the most powerful here, it was also important to get Tai-san's approval. Hanzo-san was probably in charge of tackling the settlement's practical problems, while Tai-san provided spiritual and moral direction. And when it was time to be civilized, Takumi-san came and convinced Tai-san, acting as an intermediary. It looked like Takumi-san himself understood such subtleties, and Chiemi seemed to rely on this side of it. The lady brought some tea to the old folk. Perfect time.
Oh, Kaori-san!
Kari. That was her name. She does strike me as a killer. She really does strike me as a killer. Oh my god, she's blushing. Beautiful hag. These two sure seem to get along. They look about the same age too. Would you like something to eat too? I have a sausage here.
Ah, yeah.
I could murder some onigiri right now.
Ah, それは。
ごめんなさい。ちょっと急ぎで電話借りていいかな、香織さん。
Oh?
それはいいけど、お茶くらいは。
ありがとう。でも本当緊急だから。
Can we borrow the phone? What's so important, Chiemi? Trust me, this is important. Freddy Freaker! You've reached the Freddy Freaker line! It didn't look like I could say no. We went up to the nearby stairs to what seemed like a living space. At the end of the creaky hallway, there was a black rotary phone, a rarity in this day and age.
これがここ、安水唯一の電話だ
Fucking
から。
rotary phones, right? I've been playing a lot of Trivia Murder Party with the family, and one of the challenges you need to do to avoid getting killed in that game is to input telephone numbers with a rotary telephone. It's fucking awful.
ちなみに、携帯電話はどのキャリアも通じませんので。
Not a single mobile service provider works in this area.
そうなのか。でもどこに電話しろって？
ロードサービスとか保険とか、あと必要なら家族にも連絡。
That makes sense. Hell, I should have been the one to say that.
さっきも言ったけど、できるだけここを早く出られた方がいいから、使えるものは何でも使いましょう。
よそ者が歓迎されない場所だから？
そういうことです。
それ以上の詮索は無用と。
春明さんはとっても察しがいい。それはいいことだと思う。
Interesting. So Haruaki must be dead. But the things he's brought with him, phone, knowledge, history, if he uses that, and a special telephone that allows him to call the world of the living, his ties to the real world will be strong enough to pull it? I don't fucking know.
ただ、好奇心もとっても強く見える。
バレたか。
バレますとも。でも正直、あんまりいろいろ首突っ込まない方がいいかも。
どうせすぐに別れるんだし。
その通り。
その通り。
なんだか寂しいな。
お、ちえみちゃんのメアド御所も
くれるならぜひ。
やった。これで男友達53人目。
テンションガタ落ちですわ。
We still went on to exchange our info. I could only hope that being number 53 wasn't as big a problem as it sounded.
それはともかく、個人的興味で言えば、何が問題になってて、どんな背景があるのか知りたいのだけど。
おすすめしないな。
なぜかな。
私が不愉快になるから。
あんまり故郷が好きじゃない？
うん。正直、嫌い。
ここの人とは仲良さそうに見えるけど。
ああ、それは見えるだけですね。私相当の問題児だったんで、ご年配方とは結構気まずいよ。それに、パッと見はわからないいろんなしがらみもあるし。まあ、住人自体はそんなに嫌いじゃないけどね。
With that, I decided to stop prying about this place any further. I'd back away before she came to hate me.
あ、でも、一つだけ聞いていい？
いい度胸。何かな？
室匠さんのこと好きだったりする？
え？私が？
うん。
さすがにそれはないな。匠兄ちゃんかっこいいけど、ごつすぎるし、10以上年違うし、対象外です。
Oh, that's a relief.
それに、匠兄ちゃんは昔から香織さん一筋だし。
やっぱそうなんだ。結婚してるわけじゃないの？
うん。香織さん未亡人だから。
Ah. Well, that seemed complicated. Thus, Chiemi had been acting a bit strange. Why had she dragged me away from the tea? It seemed so awkward, too. Assuming she hadn't been jealous of Kaori-san and simply didn't want her to charm me, it would mean that she just hadn't wanted me to drink the tea. But why? Maybe it's like Spirited Away. Well, not quite, because in Spirited Away, you have to eat the food of the spirit world in order to not die in the spirit world. Whereas here, we've already been fed by Chiemi. Sus. Also, why'd she feed me cup ramen if I could have just gotten food at the dining hall? Sus. Looking too deep into things was part of my nature, though things were never as bad as I assumed. I went on to call my insurance company, where I found out something. Apparently, this village was hundreds of kilometers away from the nearest service station, meaning I was ineligible for the normal service and had to pay extra. The extra was no small amount, too. It actually went over 100,000 yen. Also, I could have avoided this if I'd taken a more expensive plan. This was all my own fault for not taking the bike salesman's advice. Shit! I said I would consider it and hung up. Then I went back to the dining hall.
あれ、おじいさんたちは
The customers had changed completely. Tai-san, Kanzo-san, and Takumi-san were gone now. They were replaced by a caricature of a juvenile delinquent. Yo, check it out! It's that one Yakuza from Danganronpa 2. What's his name? Yuzuryu. He shouted at me. He seemed like he was trying too hard. He then slammed his bowl and chopsticks on the table and stood up to intimidate.
久石春明です。
He's out of my strike zone. My strike zone is weirdos who got lost in the woods. You're number 58! I'm Haruaki Fusaishi.
まあ、吉次、初対面の方になんて口の利き方を。
Be a better son.
うるせえババ。おいチエネ、そいつ誰だよ。
Shut up, Hag. Why is he talking to his mom like that?
バイクで事故った旅行者の春明さん。
Boy, was that introduction half-assed.
改めて、こちら織部香織さんと次男の吉次くん、安永くんが長男ね。
安永くんって朝の彼？
そう、よく見たら似てるでしょ。
The Oribes. What a Horibe family. Wah, wah, wah.
そう言われてもな、モテちゃうからな、ちえ姉ちゃんは。
From what I'd seen, that confidence was well justified. Anybody who goes like Yeah. They're the one who's a baka.
どうしよう、春明さん。バカは否定できないかも。
なんとちえみちゃんはバカだったのか。よーし、バカバカ。
ひどい。
言ってやろうぜ、吉嗣くん。バカバカ。
なんなんだよてめえ。チエミバカにしてんじゃねえよ。
You're pretty conflicted, aren't you?
ごめんちえみちゃん、本心じゃないんだ。
おお、見事な連続手のひら返し。このちえみをあっけに取られさせるとはなかなかやるな、春明さん。
ちえみちゃんには負けないぜ。
付き合ってんのかてめえら。
Not yet. Boy, did I wish.
いい加減になさい、吉嗣。とうに遅刻でしょ。気が。
行かねえよ。
Mumbling something, the kid walked out the dining hall, leaving its half-full bowl behind.
ごめんなさいね。お恥ずかしいところ
I'm
を。
such a terrible mother.
根は素直ないい子なんですけどね。
Yeah, I can actually see that somewhat.
あ、ところで牧島さんとムロさんは？
あ、もうバイク拾いに出ましたよ。
Oh yeah, my bike!
まずい、追いかけないと。
場所は分かってるみたいだったし、大丈夫じゃない？
いや、一応ニュートラルにすれば押せるけどさ、操作わかるのかな。あとさすがに手伝うべきでしょ。作業が非効率になっちゃまずいし。
Dude, your bike's fucked.
その程度なら手出しはやめときましょう。
なんで？
取りも直さず、春明さんがよそ者だからです。
問題になりそうな人たちには思えなかったけど。
そりゃ二人とも大人だから。でも基本的にこの知恵みほど
I
多
assume
くの
everyone
人
here
は
is as
ここには
welcoming
そう
as
そういない
me.
からね。春明さんは平気かもだけど、一緒にいると向こうがストレス溜めるかもしれない。ただでさえ今普通じゃないから。
まあ、そうね。任せろと言われたら手出しをしない方がいいでしょうね。
Shemi was worried that this cowrie would try to kill me with a cup of tea.
そうなんですか。
ええ。安水には安水のやり方がある。男の人たちはそれにこだわるから。
I could somewhat understand that. A visitor should behave like one. Doing anything more would be uncalled for. It was an old-fashioned way of thinking. But this was an old-fashioned kind of place for sure.
じゃあ、どこで待とうか。
うちに戻って待ちましょう。
Back at her place. Normally, you'd expect we'd sit around and drink some tea right here, so why didn't we? As we waited, Chiemi, casually but uncomfortably, told me several things. First, I found out that the people here in Yasumizu were a bit on edge right now. The reason for that was the fact that, excluding me, they had 3 whole outsiders here. I assume this was myself from what I knew so far, but apparently yesterday morning a little girl was found straying around the Saranaga Rapids. Was that the little girl we saw in the trees? Or another little girl? You couldn't even find out her name, let alone who her parents were, so they didn't know how to handle her. Grab her by the pussy. For now, one of the inhabitants was looking after her. Like I'd been told, the more superstitious inhabitants, Tai-san mostly, saw her as a bad omen. I suggested leaving her to the police, but Chiemi didn't seem to think it was a good idea. It barely made sense to me, but if I were to believe her, things around here were such that not even the cops could do anything. And apparently the remaining 2 outsiders were a pair of journalists gathering info for a magazine article. Unlike the little girl and I, they'd come here via the normal route, through Kamifujiyoshi, and therefore weren't considered a bad omen or whatever. Still, even normal outsiders put people here on edge. Through this talk, I also got some details about the area itself. Yasumizu was a settlement part of an autonomous region called Fujiyoshi Village, or simply Fujiyoshi. It had also been on the map I'd been shown at the store. Fujiyoshi was split into two areas, Yasumizu and Kamifujiyoshi. They were separated by a mountain. Going to Kamifujiyoshi took about an hour by foot, or 20 minutes by car on the winding but paved road. Side note, the school the students went to was in Kamifujiyoshi. The two settlements had ties so strong they shared customs and culture. Chiemi said the local seasonal events were quite unconventional. I asked her to elaborate, but all she could say was that Yasumizu had special meaning to Fujiyoshi. She was making me more suspicious than I wanted to be. The conversation wasn't nearly as exciting as trying to say Kamifujiyoshi, 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 Kamifujiyoshi 5 times in the mirror. Well, at least I found out she didn't have a boyfriend right now. Very intriguing. It was nearly noon when Takumi-san came back, ending my waiting game. Side note, the door was fully open the entire time we waited. It was probably Chiemi's way of saying that nothing bad was happening here.
バイクってのはおめえもんだな、おやっさん。
去年取った獅子ほどじゃねえ。
Didn't really expect them to just carry it here. I did. Like, sure, there were 2 of them, but just how much mass did you have to haul a 200-kilogram piece of metal so easily? The unpaved road and river made my sweet ride really damn muddy.
どうやってあの崖を上げたんです？
滑車があんだよ。たまに下から物を引き上げなきゃなんねえから。
おい、匠。
と、余計なこと言ってる場合じゃねえ。これ大丈夫なのか？だいぶ
どうかな。見てみます。
じゃああとは任すぜ。おやっさん、結構かかっちまったから研ぎ直しは明日まで待ってもらえっか。
I saw them off with a loud thank you! Now then.
手伝おっか？
とりあえず一人でなんとかなるかやってみるよ。
The worst part of the repairs was right at the beginning. I wanted to start by washing it, but that old lady, Tae Yamawaki, was her full name, got really mad at me. She didn't want any Saranaga mud on the ground here because it was corrupt or something. Really? But this plaza was the only place with easy access to a water supply tap, so I did my best and convinced her to let me wash it as close to the edge as possible. Once it was clean, I could start checking what was wrong with it. It actually looked pretty good. Bent in places, sure, but the wash got rid of the bad sound the wheels made. The only problem was both tires were flat. It was a pretty big one.
道具とか持ってきてないの？普通バイク旅行とかって持ってくるもんじゃないの？
いざとなればロードサービス呼べばいいかな。的なノリだったんで。
I just thought I could call road service in the middle of nowhere. Dum 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 dum.
不準備。
いや、返す言葉もない。正直やけくそ
That's right. He was unhappy because his girlfriend had been rude to him. Chucked out his porno mags or something.
お？事情を聞いてほしそう。
彼女に振られたんだよ。
なんか嘘っぽいな。
It wasn't.
それはともかく、パンク修理道具か。野里屋敷ならあるかもしれないな。
No Sato Mansion?
野里屋敷？
うん。安水で一番大きなお家。野里屋敷にないものは安水にはないよ。
Can't find something there, you won't find it anywhere else in the village.
なるほど。じゃあそこの人にお願いしに行こ
う。
I'm starting a trip.
実はあんまり会うのはおすすめできないんだけど。背に腹は
Some of the text I'm reading, the words look jumbled. Like I thought the words on this Nasato Mansion was all jumbled, Like, I saw a V in there. I was very confused. And I looked in the log and I'm freaking out. Raging Loop is actually making me freak out.
また偉い人が登場？
うん。その上ちょっと人格的にね。
And so we walked up the hill and arrived at this so-called Nosato mansion. Where I could tell it was located at the highest point of the settlement. God, I'm so tired. Oh, I had 2 interviews yesterday. I didn't get a great deal of sleep the night before. Then I had an interview today and a phone call with the job center. I didn't get a great deal of sleep last night either. So much on my mind. So much going on. Ugh. I am zonked. It's not even 10 p.m. And my eyes hurt, and I just know that it's going to be gone 1 a.m. that I fall asleep again, because my circadian rhythm is fucked. It doesn't help that I've set up fucking Christmas lights in here that are brighter than the surface of the sun. And like Chiemi said, it was definitely a hell of a building. It had elegant Western design, which would probably look even better if the place were better maintained. The yard was overgrown, and the building itself was pretty much buried in ivy and small trees. Sorry, if someone told me it was cursed, I'd instantly believe them. Did people actually live here?
インターホン生きてるかな?
She pressed a button next to the aged iron gate. Yasumizu was a quiet place, so I could easily hear the bell ring inside.
もう一度押そうか?
You're freaking out before they even get to the plot. I hope you are doing good.
やめとこ。何度も鳴らす
The
と
world
支障が出る
building
から
is so good in this. If this were a horror movie, if this was a horror movie, if this was a Hammer horror movie, if this was a Handel's Hammer horror movie, I would be pissed off with how slow it's going. But as a visual novel, it's building the suspense, the suspense really well.
そんなに気難しい人なの?
そうね。気難しい。うん。いい表現だ。
I'm glad this one got an official translation, because it's interesting so far. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I opted to just wait rather than ask more questions. Soon enough, the person in question walked out of the mansion. He wasn't young, but he didn't look middle-aged either. He certainly looked high-strung. That much was sure.
どうも、野里さん。芹沢です。
知っている芹沢千恵美。そっちの青年は存じ上げないがね。
春明さん、こちら野里清之助さん。清之助さん、事故車の久石春明さんです。
The introduction was the briefest one yet.
は？なんだって？
I explained the situation again. He furrowed his brow when I mentioned the Saranaga, in addition to the reason we were here.
というわけで、早々にここから出ていくためにも、修理道具をお持ちだったら貸していただけないかと。
タイヤはチューブですかね。一応パッチも
I have patches, but I think fixing tubeless tires would be a little too much for an amateur.
できるならいいがね。なあ、チューブがバーストしてたら交換するしかないが、替えはさすがに持っておらんよ。譲る義理もないがね。
すみません。ちょっとそのあたりあんまり詳しくない。
ちょっと話にならんね。おとなしく何十万だかの勉強料を払って拾ってもらうのをおすすめしよう。
This was a hentai handle horror. A hentai handle hammer hover horror movie. I would watch it. I had no retort to that.
野里さん、多分ですけど、今の時期 これ以上よその車がここに入るとかよくないんじゃ。
はあ、君は間違いりだろう。未だにそんなもの信じてるのかね。
私はともかくじいさまばあさま方がちょっとここ数日やたら外来者多いですし。
安水の連中の事情は知らんよ。私にどうしろと。油まみれになってパンク修理しろと。
He's such a yandere.
いや、そこまでなくても藤吉の長者として困ってるマロードを助けるのにお力添えをいただけないかと。
困った時だけ長者を頼るのではなく、安水流のもてなしでもしたらどうかね。崖から突き落とすんだったか。
There's been too much throwing off the cliff this week, alright? We threw a cute pink-haired girl off a cliff a couple of nights ago. Whoa, what the hell?
いや、そんな言っちゃダメですよ。
Shemi's tone was slightly off. You could feel a bit of irritation behind her words.
本当、お恥ずかしい限りなんですが、なんとかしてみるんで、道具だけ貸してもらえませんか？
なんだと？
道具やらキットやら仮に入るだけで、作業は別のところでしますから、もちろんお代は払います。
まあ構わんがね。下手に物を破損させたりしたら弁償してもらうぞ。学生だか知らんがきっちりしてもらう。
Then he pointed me to the garage and walked back to the mansion.
いやー、なんとかならない気がしてきた。チューブがバーストってなんだろう。
春明さんかっこ悪い。
バイク乗りならスパナ1本で何でも修理してみせろと。
Fix something like bashing it with a wrench. What is this? Video game logic?
まあわかりませんけど、なんかそういうメカに強い感じ出したらグッとくる女は多いのでは。
じゃあ野里氏にはグッときたと。
いやー、どうせ知ったかぶりだから。あの人多分自分じゃ整備もできないよ。筋金入りの裏なり病炭だし。
I was about to say, are you saying she's into that old geezer? Come on now.
じゃあなぜバイクの整備用品なんて。
野里屋敷は上藤吉にある野里家のもっと大きいお屋敷からいらないものを運んで置いとくような場所らしくてね。5、6年前に清之助さんが単車買ってもらったけど、ろくに乗りこなせなくてお蔵入りにしたとか聞いたことある。
That was the countryside for you. Couldn't hide your shame if your life depended on it. Anyway, I now knew that the man was the condescending, pretentious type. He still helped me out, though. It was true that I didn't know much about bike repairs, so I couldn't really get mad.
さ、そうと決まれば使えそうなものは全部持ち出してやろうぜ。
さながら山賊のごとく乗った。私、
Two of them need to sleep together already. Sure I'm not bothering you?
いや、適当に話してないと気がめいるんで、相槌打ってくれるだけでも助かる。
The instructions that came with the repair kit told me that my bike's tires were a rather difficult type to repair. Whoops. Apparently I had to remove the tires, but where did I even start with that? Well, as long as I didn't break it, nothing I did could be worse than having to call road service down here, so I just tried taking it apart. But as I removed whatever nuts I could, I made the situation even worse than it was. Yeah, this really wasn't a job for an amateur.
お兄さん大変そうね。ちえみちゃんもよかったら食べてね。
ありがとうございます。
なんか大元になってんな。機械つうのはやっぱダメだな。
It's like that guy from Dr. Stone. The classmate that's like, oh yeah, I can punch a hole in a mountain. It's like, computers are scary! That guy.
まあ、怖いさえしなきゃ文明の利器は便利だけどね。
日暮れまでに治りそうかい？
厳しいかも。最悪なんとかするから安心して。ばあちゃん。
Why do I need to leave before sundown?
なあ知恵ね、バイクって免許簡単に取れんの？
どうだろう。原付なら簡単よ。私も持ってるし。
中型大型の二輪は結構めんどいよ。普通免許取るのと同じ学科講習もあるし。バイク好きなのかい？
ああ、関係ねえだろ。ちなみにそれいくらすんだよ。
これは新車で80万くらいかな。
たっけは？たっけバカ！どうやって貯めんだよ。
I won the lottery.
まあバイトとか頑張ったから。
そんな新車が事故ってなんて、春明さん気の毒。
千恵美先生、さっきから気にはなってたんだけど。あ、
先生思わず全部食べちゃった。春明さん気の毒。
Oh no, I ate it all. Poor little Rich. I didn't want sympathy from the one responsible. As I told her off for not leaving me any food, I somehow removed the ties. I could only hope I'd be able to fix this up. I'd had this thing for less than a month. Oh my god. I had this 800,000 yen bike for less than a month. I'm gonna go drive into the mountains with no insurance. Are you trying to die? Are you trying to die? Yeah, are you trying to die? I wanted to fire it up again and make it go as fast as it could. Suddenly I heard an engine. I felt like it was mocking me. Hold on, an engine here? I stopped working and turned around to see an unfamiliar van drive into the plaza. Barring the classic-looking piece of junk in Nosato's garage, this was the first time I'd seen a car here. As far as I knew, no one living here actually owned a running car. Hey, maybe the journalists can give me a lift out of here. Once the van stopped, a lady stepped out of it. Relationship ended with Chiemi. A journalist-san is now my best friend. Oh, she's pretty.
今日もご迷惑をおかけします。これまで見ないお方ね。
どうも、自己春明です。
そこまで自虐的になんなくても。
Crap. That was no time for an inside joke. I quickly introduced myself properly.
ちょっとその辺で事故りましてね。ここに寄せてもらってます。
なるほど、学生さんね。事故は災難だったわね。ちなみに私はこういうものです。
Woman gave me her business card. Hisako Mamiya, a freelance writer. Her pen name was Kyuko Hosei. Hisako Mamiya. Like Fist of the North Star. Like the sun, the stars in the sky shine brightly. The star of death is hovering above you, Mamiya.
ちなみに読んだことない？宝生9個の記事。
すみません。
だよね。まだまだマイナーだし、そもそも記事載った雑誌、主婦向けとシニア向けだし。
Marketed for housewives and the elderly.
それは難易度高いな。ちなみに何を書いておられるんです？
フードレビュー、変わった食品専門のね。
Unusual dishes. I have one for you. It's like, it's a blue dish. It's been cracked once or twice, and it's been repaired with, like, gold. Oh, you mean food, not the actual dish.
あれですか？世界で一番
Foulest smelling canned food in the world or something. Oh boy! Surströmming mentioned! Surströmming mentioned! Surströmming mentioned!
そうそう。まあ、シュールなんて今更ネタになんないから、国内
Minor culinary oddities. Is that when you cook a child?
そんなわけで、調理に変わった料理があるとか、情報があったらぜひちょうだい。日本全国、
Yeah, I got a dish in my pants you can try, but first you have to give me a lift out of here.
ラボの後輩がキャンパス内で取ったキノコで豚汁作ったら集団幻覚が起きまして。
思いつきと毒物は却下ね。
As we chatted, I became curious. Do you have a boyfriend?
そういえば取材の方はお二人とか。
ええ、もう一人いるわ。ちょっと降りてくるのに。
I'm here with a partner.
来た来た。
It's not going to work out. Became completely awestruck. It felt like the van had shed its skin or something. That made no sense, but seriously, how did this fit in there? He was gargantuan! Oh my god. Look at that fella. If he can pull a lady like that journalist, there is hope for me yet. There is hope for me yet! Oh boy! There is absolutely hope for me yet. Takumi-san was something, but this man was on the level of a foreign heavyweight wrestler. Though unlike Takumi-san, the man was primarily fat rather than muscle. As he walked out of the driver's seat, the van shook wildly.
写真家の橋本雄大さんよ。こちらは私よりもっとずっと有名。
Would say he'd make a good meal, but honestly, you know, it's not the fat you eat when you eat an animal, it's the muscle. So he probably wouldn't make a good meal.
オールラウンドでご活躍中で、写真はきっと気づかないうちに何枚か目にして。
I imagine you've seen some of his photos without even knowing it. Have you ever booted up Windows XP? That Bliss wallpaper? Yeah, that wasn't him. But he's done photographs like that. Didn't know much about photography, but I was definitely convinced. There was a certain kind of authority or gravity around him. Like a planet. Like he had his own gravitational pull. Wasn't saying a word, and I couldn't tell what he was thinking.
どうもはじめまして。久石春明です。
Was he even alive?
どうも。
After a strange pause, he slowly bowed like the moving mountain he was, and greeted me with a voice like a titan. He seemed somewhat difficult to interact with.
今日で最終日でしたっけ？ええ、オリベさんが秘蔵の獅子慣れを開けてくださるってことなので。
No, don't eat Oribe-san's food! Do not eat Oribe-san's food.
よその人に耐えられるかな。まあ、胃薬も持ってきてるから大丈夫でしょ。
And so Mamiya-shi and Hashimoto-shi walked off to the dining hall-shi. Who would have thought that such a beauty was a delicacy hunter-shi? I had to admit, that gap was kind of charming-shi. As intrigued as I was, I couldn't waste any more time. I had to fix my bike already. Whoa! A lot of things had surprised me here in Yasumizu, but nothing as much as this.
もしもし
No reaction. At first glance, he looked like a poor man too senile to think and perceive properly.
何かご用ですか
I made sure to speak as clearly as possible. It didn't look like he understood. I figured it was best to just ignore him and resume the repairs, but... Coming! I looked at him again. He was just standing there like his soul and brain had left his body. A vacant stare, yellowed eyes, half-open mouth covered in saliva. Coming! He spoke again.
何が
What's
来る
coming?
んです
I have! Oh, I need to change my pants! The His voice was too hoarse to make out. The werewolf? The werewolf. The watchmen. The white supremacists.
何ですって
I placed my hand against my ear. He finally understood what I wanted and prepared to whisper something. I brought my ear closer and...
狼
The wolf is coming! The sudden shout caught me off guard and made me fall to the ground. He looked down at me, laughing. Look at this guy! Now, if that is not a reaction image on Twitter, I don't know what is. He clapped and opened his half-toothless smile into his mouth into a wide smile. He bent his body in a weird way, laughed like he was convulsing, turned around, farted, flew up into the sky, did a loop-de-loop, backwards, and flew right into the world. Jemmy had joined the journalists and only just came back. Is Chiemi a werewolf? I mean, there's something weird about her because of her hair, right? The women are coming! Oh, good! Death by Snoo Snoo. Let's go.
あれ、ちえみちゃんの？
いやいや、本名は知らないんだ。昔から休みずにいるおじいちゃんだけど、昔から。
Been in Yasumizu forever. Forever? Forever, ever? Forever, ever?
ボケてるというか、ちょっとおかしいのか、あの人。うん、
みんな狼じじいって呼んでるけどね。
Named after the boy who cried wolf, I assume? Doesn't work as well, though. As far as I knew, there were no wild wolves in Japan. There used to be, but after the last sighting in either the Meiji or Showa era, they've been considered extinct here. Modern Japan's image of wolves came from Western fairy tales and the like. It wasn't linked to anything in our culture or life. Even the boy who cried wolf was a Western tale. Did his brand of insanity make him repeat the tale or something? A bit weirded out by the circumstances, I went back to repairing my bike. After a bit more time, I somehow took off the rubber from the tyres and removed the tubes. Both tyres were pierced by some really rusty nails. Fuck! This kind of stuff only happened at the worst of times. It was the blurst of times? Ah! Then I applied the patches and I filled them with air using a manual pump. One manual pump? I'm telling you, it's not mine! Haruaki and a manual pump. This thing is my bag, baby. I wet the tubes. There were no bubbles, meaning no air was leaving them. Things were looking good. So glad I get to drive out of here. After the high schoolers came back from school and passed by, no one else stopped to talk. Chiemi was looking a bit bored now.
なんとかなりそうかも。
嘘。あんなにダメっぽかったのに。
悪かったね。まあ、これを組み立て直すって大仕事が残ってるけど。
それが終わったら出発できそう？
そうだね。長居するとまずそうなのはよくわかったし。
そう、よかった。
She didn't seem to care that much. Guess I had no chance with her, huh? I remembered her likeness. I went home and typed the details of her appearance into Stable Diffusion.
もう何時間もコンを詰めっぱなしでしょ？大丈夫？疲れてない？
I wonder if someone's made a Lora for Chiemi. Control yourself. You've been at this for hours. How are you holding up? Need a break? No.
昼食休憩の機会が誰かさんに奪われたこともあってね。
代わりにクラッカーをあげたじゃないですか。
Like that was enough to sate a guy in his mid-20s.
まあ、僕は大丈夫。もう一頑張りする。君ももう行っていいよ。大体の人とは顔合わせしたような気がするし。
多分あと2人会ってない人がいるかな。
Really? Well, there was no real need to, right?
もうちょっといるよ。どうせ暇だから帰ってきたわけだし、することもないし。
52人の男友達と遊
Didn't
ぶ
you
選
go
択
play
肢は
around
なか
with
った
your
の？
52 guy friends?
前言撤回。暇したいから帰ってきたの。街暮らしは面倒も多くて、52人からのメール攻めとかさ。
そっか。
ごめん、52人は嘘。
I lied about the 52 guys. You see, when a girl tells you how many guys she slept with, really it's 3 times more than the number she says. So 52, she's actually slept with 156 guys.
なんでそんな嘘を？
春明さんに対する牽制？
Yo, Matzo Raven! Why would she pull a tactic like that only to reveal her hand? Now I will reveal my hand.
ねえ、彼女に振られたって本当？
Did you really get dumped by your girlfriend? And now she asked me that.
本当だって。
そっか。
Well, after that relentless assault, it wouldn't be fair unless I played my own card.
なんならこれの。
え、これって2人乗りなんだ。
もちろん。一応タンデム用のヘルメットも吊してきてるし、まだ乾いてないけど。僕がこのままここを出ていくから、その便でちえみちゃんも外に出るのが都合良ければってことになるけど、ついでにロングツーリングしてみる？時間さえあればどこへだって行くよ。
Flexible, open to fine-tuning, wild and charming. This was a good date invitation, if I said so myself.
いいね、素敵。都合問題ないよ。
Oh, we're gonna get with the fox lady. The wolf lady.
じゃあ荷物まとめてくるね。
Chemi smiled and turned around to head to her place. And she looked back at
急
me.
いだ方がいいよ。ちえみさんの気が変わらないうちにね。
No way, this is it.
はいはい、もちろん。
Well, that made me motivated. This was one tiring trip, but at least I met someone good along the way. I'd just forget everything I didn't want to remember while on the road with her. I could only hope that clever girl and I would eventually grow closer. With that ulterior motive in mind, I resumed building the bike. After several failed attempts, I was finally making some good progress on putting the bike back together. Afternoon had passed and it was almost evening. At the rate I was going, I'd definitely be working while it was dark. Would that even be possible? I might be way past midnight by the time I was done. Chemi might dump me for that. Man, life sure was hard. The plaza I'd worked in was now totally empty. There was no one around me. All I could hear was the wind, the frogs, and the tools in my hands. It was desolate, to say the least. I suddenly felt really weak. It made me keenly aware of being in a place I didn't belong, and that I was preparing to escape. It was an oppressive atmosphere, like the bars of a cage were slowly swinging shut. What's this, Haruaki? Think you're going to get attacked or something? I tried to laugh it off, but it didn't work. As I became more conscious of my surroundings, I began to hear things I hadn't noticed before. I heard a voice. Someone was singing. It was an inarticulate little girl's voice. I stopped my work. Before I knew it, I put my tools down and gone looking for the source. Was I that starved for human presence? Or did the malaise make me feel like I was in danger? I walked down the hill to where the song came from. Passing the tall grass, I arrived. 'It was a strange sight. The field was covered in tall grass. There were countless rocks peeking out of it. Unlike the boulders all over Yasumisu, these were only up to my waist. They looked like gravestones. The field extended into the dusky western sky before ending at a cliff. This was the lowest spot in Yasumisu. the border to Saranaga. There was a large pine right at the edge. The evening sun, the stones, and the pine shadow gave the field a strange aura. A little girl was running through it. Her steps were awkward. At this moment, the space was alien. I felt like I was looking at a Giorgio de Chirico painting. A what now? A Giorgio de Chirico painting? My name is Gianni Giorgio, and this is painting. Da-da-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Suddenly, I came to understand that this place was special. It was a sacred, mystical ground where no outsiders were welcome. The girl fell. I run with no hesitation. The little girl. What? Why is it written like that? Help up, half-crying little girl, muddy clothes. New graze on band-aid covered kneecap. What? Why is it written like this? I console little girl, push away, run. Someone. Yo, is this a video game adaptation of House of Leaves? Appears girl, saw once me. Girl weave. Incomprehensible phrase. Hide behind little girl. Fear and hostility. Eyes? Girl hug little girl. Warn. Me? She wants me to run. Me girl behind. Missed. Me girl behind. Missed. 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 What the fuck? Me. Turn around. Run. Where? In a daze, I came back to the plaza. Suddenly, Chiemi shook me, bringing me back to my senses. It is written like that to show his thought process is supposed to be like on instinct. It's very strange because visual novels are a medium where you can do things like interface screw to fuck with the player. And that's what it felt like was going on. It felt like an interface screw. Gotta hide. I couldn't understand what she was getting at. Something strange. What were these two doing? What scared them so much? It didn't take long for me to find out. I looked down the hill. From Saranaga, beyond the field I'd just been in, came a rising haze. It was so dense you could easily call it mist. It moved strangely, like a living creature, as it flowed into the plaza. Chemi pulled me by the hand. What's going on? So fucking weird. Albeit hesitantly, I did as she said. We ran up the hill and crossed a rice field path until we made it to a simple outhouse.
ここならなんとか。
本当、何事なんだ？確かにすごい霧だけど。
いい？春明さん。詳しく説明してる時間はない。だから、お願いだから、今から言うことを絶対に守って。今から一晩、ここに入って、鍵をかけて、絶対に物音
Stay
一つ
inside
立
the
て
whole
ない
night
で。
and don't make a sound. My mind was pretty clear at this point. So much that I began to wonder why it was clouded until now. Because of that, I could easily understand exactly what Chiemi just said, despite how weird it was. I could also see she was really desperate. 3, 8, 19, and 20. But I want to choose this one. Now that's a hell of an order.
春明さん。
言っとくけど、相当な無茶ぶりだからね。ノルマクリアの暁には相当な見返りと説明を要求するから。
いいよ。全部話す。だから、今晩を生き延びて。
Survive the night. Wasn't that the original, like, Fortnite tagline for Save the World? The words, the teary smile, none of it looked fake.
じゃあね。君も急ぐんでしょ？
それじゃ。
何？
明日言うから。
Giving me one hell of a homework assignment, Chiemi ran off. The plaza was covered in mist by now. I could see it rising to take over the fields too. A promise was a promise. 10 minutes later, I began to wonder what I was doing. Was I really supposed to spend the night here? This outhouse wasn't like a prefab you'd find in construction sites. It was just a shack built by hand. It merely happened to have a toilet unit installed. It was Japanese style, so I couldn't even sit down. All I could do was stand. Another problem. It was the type of toilet that periodically had to be pumped empty, so the smell was really bad. Sure, there was a cover on the toilet unit, but without any kind of air freshener anywhere, the smell of ammonia could only do so much. The good thing about being here was that if I had to go to the toilet, well, mission complete, but what of it? Again, was I really supposed to spend the night here? The question quickly made me realize how stupid this was, and I began making assumptions to make this easier for myself. Was I being pranked, or was everyone here just crazy? Hell, the mist had already filled the surroundings. There was no way that shabby outhouse protected me from it. The air here already felt misty and damp. The temperature here was low, so I could still bear it somewhat, but staying here all night would make me all wet. Again, I wasn't safe from the mist here. That considered, I'd probably be better off sleeping in the grass outside than staying here. That reasonable part of my mind urged me to stop playing along with these hicks. However,
今から一晩ここに入って鍵をかけて絶対に物音一つ立てないで。いいよ。全部話す。だから今晩を生き延びて。
my sense of duty made it hard for me to break the promise I'd made to her. Actually, that wasn't quite true. I was more intrigued by the prospect of learning more about this place. Anyway, I took the time to compile what I'd found out today. This was the Yasumizu settlement, a special part of Fujiyoshi. It was situated right next to the Saranaga Rapids. The people living here were... Welcome to the plot start. That's some good timing, because I was thinking about ending part 1 here, but we'll see. Chiemi Serizawa, Yasunaga Orabe, and his family, Kaori Orabe and Yoshit Sugu Shira Orabe, Chikamochi Kamoshida, Haru Makishima, Bay. Her granddad, Kanzo Makishima, not Bay. Tei Yamawaki, Takumi Muro, Kiyonosuke Nosato. Seemed like he was from Kamafujiyoshi, the place on the other side of the mountain, but for some reason he lived here now. And finally, the old man who cried wolf. Those were the 11 people I'd met, and Chiemi said I had 2 more left. That could only mean the 2 I'd met by that pine were the ones. The little girl, she was probably the child that strayed into Saranaga yesterday morning. Doesn't she look a lot like Chiemi? And then there was this fantastical-looking, white-haired woman clad in strange clothing, who I could have sworn told me not to stream this video game. She was probably the one I'd seen in the morning. The fact I'd seen her twice made it likely she was indeed real, but with how mysterious this place was, I couldn't rule out the possibility that she was an illusion. According to Chiemi, the little girl was being looked after by someone in the village, so I could only assume that the white-haired woman was the one. If I counted the little girl, that would mean Yasumizu had 13 inhabitants. Then there were the two journalists, Hisako Mamiya and Yudai Hashimoto. Add me to that and you had a total of 3 outsiders, but I put that aside for now. Anyway, time for an assessment. Yesterday morning, a little girl strayed into Saranaga. To make it worse, no one, not even herself, knew anything about her. She instantly got branded as an ill omen. The next day, Chiemi, who was in Saranaga for some reason, found me there. They recognized me as a proper lost person, but since I came through the Saranaga, I was also branded as an ill omen. From what Kiyonosuke Nosatoshi said, it was safe to assume that it used to be customary to throw people like us into Saranaga. And then there was the mist. The girl said something mysterious. Prepare for the feast when the evening mists arrive. I could only assume it was related to the same superstitions. After all, the mist came from Saranaga itself. It and the river seemed to be central to the local customs and ideas. With that in mind, how was it dangerous? What was going to happen now? Yomibito as in people from Yomi? The ancient Japanese land of the dead? Dead people came back through Saranaga and they were corrupt. Well, that gave room for some wild ideas. Was there some sort of pathogen in Saranaga that rose up with the mists? Did it turn people into zombies? Was I about to be a part of Japanese Resident Evil? Wait, that was already Japanese. What if you had a 10% chance to be infected by the mists, but a 100% chance to be infected by another person? That'd explain why everyone had to isolate themselves like this. If I became a zombie, I probably wouldn't have the mind to unlock the door. So basically, by locking myself in here, I was quarantining myself. I hadn't put all that much thought into that, but it seemed like a good story. Sure, stuff like boulders and walls didn't fit anywhere into my idea, but it was still interesting. I don't know, it does fit in. Have you played Resident Evil 8? Then again, I knew this Hicksville and all, but would a superstition that science could explain so easily really survive the modern world? It seems so weird.
今から一晩ここに入って鍵をかけて絶対に物音一つ立てないで。
Don't make a sound. To be frank, the reason why I spent so much time on these delusions was because I was scared of things I don't know or understand. In the past, people used to attribute stuff like natural phenomena and diseases to gods, devils, yokai, and then do nothing but fear them. They were scared of these manifestations of monsters and whatnot, but on the other hand, it was better than not seeing or not knowing what they really were. The fact that you could die to things you couldn't see or understand made life really unreasonable and unfair. That was why it was very logical to give these things names and mental images in order to recognize and memorize them. My fear of things I didn't know was the same, except I wasn't satisfied with just labels or hypotheses. I needed to reach the truth. That aside, what I was feeling right now wasn't a fear of the unknown. I like how his first thought was zombies. My first thought would be... Well, his immediate first thought was, am I being pranked? Which I think would be my first thought. It was a realistic, practical fear of something that could endanger my life.
今から一晩ここに入って鍵をかけて絶対に物音一つ立てないで。
That meant outside lurked something dangerous that could hear sounds. Perhaps it was the so-called dead that rose up from the river. Or maybe, assuming I was right with my Saranaga sickness theory, it was people who came out and beat the shit out of all the diseased who didn't follow the rules. The wolf is coming. Maybe the wolf was the title given to the killer. Suddenly I heard a scream in the distance. Stay indoors! Stay indoors! No! No! No, you fucking dumbass! No! No, stay indoors, you fucking dumbass. No. Fuck it. Wow, that was some timing. Right as I was about to form a new hypothesis, the proof connecting it all suddenly came to me, and it was right outside. It had gotten really dark. There were no lights anywhere. The darkness was fear. Unperceived equals unknown equals dangerous equals scary. Leaving this place was dangerous. Dangerous equals scary equals scary equals scary equals scary. Scary things were scary no matter how much logic you applied. But I couldn't discard my desire to get to know the fear and conquer it. I opened the door and stopped in place. Night wasn't absolute darkness. No matter how dark or cloudy it was, the sky always gave some bit of light to us. However, I came to understand that it could be hard to see even if there was light. Everything I saw was covered by a dense mist. Combined with the pale moonlight, it made the area seem milky. When there's heavy snow in this neck of the woods, which usually means it has to come from France, when there's heavy snow in this neck of the woods in the southeast, all the light pollution bounces off the clouds in the sky, and it can be 2 a.m. in the morning and it's like daytime brightness, because all the light bounces off the clouds and you can see perfectly. It's crazy. It made it hard to get around. Regardless, I couldn't ignore the scream. There was something beyond this veil. I kept moving forward. Unless my ears were deceiving me, the scream belonged to a woman and had come from the right. I couldn't let myself think that. Or rather, I didn't want to think that. The unknown was scary. Personally, I'd found that principle made my life really easy. I had more than enough fear from those that were directly threatening my life. I really didn't want to have fear of losing someone as well. Change your line of thought, Haruaki. Solving the mystery might save someone. 2 stones with 1 stone. Two birds with 1 stone. Hold on, 2 birds with 1 stone. You can't say that anymore. Peter will have you hung, drawn, and quartered. You have to say feed 2 birds with 1 scone. Or if the scone is really hard, you can kill 2 birds with 1 scone. I began walking faster. Another scream was close. I realized I had to find a way to protect myself. I was unarmed, so I looked around for anything I could use as a weapon. I felt around to see if there were any branches or anything. Sadly, all I felt was grass. I went deeper and searched the ground itself. Soon, I felt something hard. It was a rock. A moment of digging later, I took it in hand. It was a bit smaller than my hand. I almost teared up at how useless it seemed, but it was better than nothing. I looked at the base of my feet and saw grassy ground. I could easily move forward if I first checked the ground using my feet. And since I might have been close to the danger, I had to focus on what was ahead too. I'd recognize the danger and, if possible, get rid of it. I concentrated entirely on that and stepped forward. I couldn't hear the screams anymore, but I could hear other things. A wet sound. The sound of something cracking. It filled my mind with countless things I didn't want to imagine. Even so, I kept walking forward, until I saw it. Oh. My hypotheses were nothing but delusions. The truth was really something you had to see yourself. But why? Why was this so scary, in spite of being true? It wasn't supposed to exist. It couldn't exist. After all, it was a wolf with a humanoid body. There's no such thing as werewolves. The next morning, in a paddy field in Fujiyoshi, Yasumizu 3rd block, someone discovered a thoroughly mangled corpse. The clothes nearby led the discoverers to conclude that it was the traveler, Haruaki Fusaishi. Oh, did this pull a Danganronpa 3 on us? Did this pull a Danganronpa V3 on us? Did it? Did it. Did it. Pull a Danganronpa V3 on us. Are we now playing as Hot Lady? He's still moving. Strangely enough, I could perceive this particular moment. And so I... was finished off by the girl. Last thing I heard. Raising loop. That's not what it's called. This is false advertising. Trophy earned. Obtained key, werewolf, and resurrection. Obtained key 02, werewolf, and resurrection. You can view it in the keys list. The route unlocked by this key is represented by the same number on the scenario chart. Bad ending number 2. Watch hint corner? Yeah, why not?
Yo, やっちまったな、大将。俺のことは、まあ気にすんな。取るに足らねえインターフェース的なキャラクターさ。羊とでも呼べよ。
Fucking something in here. I think it's just a fly. Thought it was a moth, but I think it's just a fly.
ここは夢と夢の狭間。臭いし春明とかいう野郎には見えねえから。
That bastard Haruaki Fusaishi. Fusaishi. What? Why? Why is he a bastard?
つっても、あんま長っちりはできねえかな。俺は忙しいんだ。ちゃっちゃと進めんぞ。ヒントコーナーにふさわしく、大将が困らねえようにありがてえ助言をいくつかくれてやるぜ。まず、ゲーム的なあれこれを最初に言っておこう。さっき、やっちまったと言ったが、実は大将が最初にここに来るのは確定事項だ。
Yes, it's pretty clear I didn't have a choice over ending up here.
つうのも、選べる選択肢は一つしかなかったろ。その下はなんか、鍵マークみてえなのが出て、選べなかったはずだ。
And I won't be able to pick that one until I get 4 keys. Just so you know, redoing Chiemi Sarasawa's idiotic quiz is pointless. None of those choices will change a thing. I'm going back there anyway. As you just experienced for yourself, you will definitely die in Raging Loop. Okay. Are you a moth or are you a fly? Fuck you do. I like this mechanic. I'm sure there are other visual novels like this, but I like this mechanic. It reminds me of a similar system in the second Bleach DS game, where you have locked paths and you need to complete different routes first to unlock them. You need to die to obtain most of them. Right.
どうやら不妻子春明の野郎は死んでも記憶を次に持ち越せるらしいな。それを再現したシステムってわけだ。つうわけで、羊さんから大将への最初のアドバイスだ。数あるバッドエンドの中にはキーが手に入るものも多い。意外な結末からキーが手に入ることもあるだろうさ。
That's an interesting structure.
もちろん全部のバッドエンドを見なくても必要なキーを集めて最短クリアすることは可能だ。ま、遊び方は任せるぜ。で、今回のバッドエンドに題して便所マンの最後についてだが、回避するにはキーが必要だ。
Yeah, it's a fly. It's a fucking fly. I can't believe this shit. There's a fly in here? Bruh. I like to think I maintain a good level of cleanliness in here. I like to think so. I like to think I'm relatively good at keeping things clean. Where's the spray? It's moved again. I don't know where the spray is. I'll deal with him later. Yes, I already obtained key number 2.
大将はキー2を入手してる。キー2の内容はメニューの中にキーってボタンがあるからそこで見てくれりゃいいんだが、要は夜出歩いたら死ぬってことを夫妻子春明は身をもって知った。
But we knew that already. We didn't need to die to know that.
新しい選択が可能になった。この手の一度つまずく系の死亡エンドは今後も何回かあっからそこんとこは承知しといてくれな。一方、キーを手に入れるのがずっと先になることもある。キーが手に入るときは赤文字ででっかく表示されるから今後も要注目だぜ。この後だが、夫妻子春明は売り出しに戻る。つまり最初から読み直してもいいが、今後何十回も死ぬことになるから、その度に読み直してたら
double tap R1.
だから、ある程度状況を把握したら、シナリオチャートを使ってひょいっとジャンプしちゃってくれ。大将が一度読み切ったシーンなら、いつでもどこでもどこからでもジャンプが可能だ。便利なもんだぜ、こいつはよ。
Game's main mechanic is pretty fun. If you ever see a key, it means there's a route there, and you've already seen a few, and that's pretty cool. Yeah. You open the menu, press the chart button, and go to follow the stream in dense mist, even right now. Use the scenario chart to move around. That's the key to completing Raging Loop. Incidentally, this marks the end of 2 dense mist. The so-called prologue is over. You pick the choice that was unlocked this time. The game's first main route, 3 Yomi will begin. Good luck. Next time you come across a locked choice, look to the right side. You should see the number of the key you need to unlock. You won't be getting key 1 for a long time. You didn't miss anything, so relax and just keep playing to your heart's content. Okay. Guess it was just a dream, right? Do better next time. 1 sheep, 2 sheep. Right, so I don't have the one for there yet. And that's key number 20. Right, okay. Hide in the outhouse. Follow the screen. So the only place I can go right now is follow the screen. Now it has a red skull next to it. Keep still. What was that? It sounded like someone's life was in danger. It meant something dangerous was nearby. Wait, I can be rash. The world didn't have many things that logic couldn't explain. You fucker. There's 2 of them in here. Where the fuck are they coming from? There's no rubbish bags in here. Something lay eggs in here. Fucker. Where's a spider when you need one? Like the existence of murderers. But until I saw the source of the scream myself, it was nothing but a source of fear. How many times are we going to hear this line specifically? I reached to open the door, but something stayed my hand. It was my promise to Chiem. That scream just now was very real. It wasn't normal. I had to assume the situation was dangerous, and maybe I could help if I went out, but that meant endangering myself. I was no saint. I had no plans to rectify that. If there was something that could get me to walk out, it would be curiosity. My curiosity had won over many dangers thus far, but right now was weaker than my fear and risk of death. What? Because I already knew. Shit, what the hell were these memories? It wasn't a premonition, a dream, or anything else that vague. My brain recognized it as something I'd experienced, but how? After all, I was still alive, and the time from those memories had yet to come. Was I a precog or something? By God, I swore I'd never experienced anything like this before coming here. And why did the memory come back to me at this particular moment? Regardless, that overwhelming fear, and the pain and death that followed, were exactly what waited for me if I opened the door. How many times are you going to hear the lock yourself in line from Chiemi? Surprisingly little, actually. Are there other lines that repeat more often? The thoughts rendered me unable to move, immobile. I stood still, completely certain that I had lost my chance to leave. It reminds me of how many times you hear Mukuro Ikusaba in the first Danganronpa. Not to mention I was upset at myself for not being able to act like me and just run out simply because I was curious. I didn't even feel saved until that moment. You get away from Junko Enoshima, you fly bug. Is there something in the skull? Is that a real human skull? Suddenly, the door began to shake, and so did my controller. The place had a handle on the outside, and someone was pulling on it hard. It was a lock, sure. There was only so much it could take before it broke, prepared to pull on it from the inside. You're having me on! I've heard it again! What would happen if I did? Whatever was outside would instantly know I was here. Even if I protected the door, the thing had lots of other ways of hurting me. But what if I didn't know about me and was just weirded out about this randomly locked toilet? What if I didn't show a hint of fear to what it was doing? Would it just leave? I chose to just wait and see. Once again, someone pulled the door, shaking the structure as a whole. I gulped down a scream and focused on the lock. If it broke, it'd be over for me. Over as in, I'd be dead. That was what the memory told me. I was powerless back then and even more so now. Assuming I tried to fight back, what would work? I'd heard that teeth were the hardest part of the human body, so maybe I could bite? Yeah. I'd tear whatever it was apart with my teeth. I'd bite it to death. I gathered my wits in killing intent, grinding my teeth. I glared at the door. How long had it been? The sound suddenly stopped. For all I knew, It might have been a ploy to make me drop my guard. I'd slowly count to 500. If nothing happened in that time, I'd assume it went away. There were no screams or attacks after. But the silence around me improved my perception, and I heard strange noises every now and then. Breathing, growling, claws on the ground. Basically, I felt a beastly presence. So that thing actually existed here? Was it what the mists brought here from Saranaga? The wolf is coming. Did they all know about this? Shit. I couldn't learn anything in a place like this, and not knowing things scared me. Trusting my prescience, or deja vu, or whatever it was, I chose to just stay quiet and wait. I'd find out everything tomorrow. I just had to make it through the night, and then talk to Chiem. And if it was something I couldn't solve, I'd just run away. Thankfully, my bike repairs were going well, but I'd be leaving even if it didn't work. I'd walk to Kamifujiyoshi if I had to. Unlike Yasumizu, they might have had reliable means of transport. For now, I just had to stay awake and make it through the night. I like how, at the start of the game, right, you've got this option here with lock number 4. I like the idea that that's just Hackintosh. He's like, I remembered something. Oh yeah, don't drive to that fucking town. Credits roll. Manual save. Manual save. Manual save. I forgive Naegi for remembering that line a lot. His crush creeped up on him in the dark to sensually whisper that in its ear. That is true. How do I fucking hate the PS5 interface so bad. Right. Thank you very much for coming to the first part of Raging Loop. This is great. And I love the mechanic that has just opened up. The mechanic that has just opened up is extremely interesting. And I basically want to see where it's going to go from here. This was one of... Back when we had Game in Canterbury High Street before it closed, in the months leading up to its closure, they had a bunch of brand new games, and they were just selling them at stupid cheap. They had all the P-Cube titles. They had, like, this, Root Letter, what is it called? Like, The Wonderful End of the World, or something like that. They had, like, all those P-Cube titles for, like, a tenner each. This was a tenner when I bought it. The Day 1 edition. With the art book. And I've definitely already had a tenner's enjoyment out of this. Definitely looking forward to coming back to this for another spooky streams. Maybe it's not going to take me 3 months to get through this if I play it like twice a week. So I think what I'll do is aim to play it twice a week. So maybe the next one about maybe Wednesday or so. Or Tuesday. Right. Thank you very much for coming. I am going to get some sleep now. I think it's this way. It's this way. Until next time. If we live that long. Take care. Bye-bye.